My name is Fictional. How are you doing? It's a very cold season. What I can tell you, keep warm. I don't know what you're going to use to keep warm, but hey, keep warm. Vivian, it is the day again.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, and a very good morning to you, Victor, and to everyone who's tuned in on the show this morning. As Victor has said, we are officially into the cold season, that is July, so I hope that you're going to be looking after yourself and ensuring that you do not catch a flu or a cold. Now, right here on Good Morning Kenya, we get to let you know on everything that is happening around the world and in the country as we touch on different topics, and today won't be any different. But before we dive into everything that will be happening today on the show, I have a quote for you. Do not give up on a dream simply because of the time that it will take you to accomplish it, because at the end of the day, the time will pass anyway. So as we are almost getting to the end of the year, by the way, we are almost getting to the end of the year. It's only 5 months for us to be done with the year 2024. Whatever dream or goal that you had set for yourself, still go for it, run for it. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Vivian. And it's true to what you've said. We are in the second half of the year. Whatever you have set or you had set to achieve this year, please continue doing it, because as she has said, time will still pass. And speaking of what is happening, the Gen Z are continuing with their protests today, but even amidst that, the Chief Justice has called on police not to use excessive force when dealing with protesters. On the other hand, the church is also urging the Gen Z to call off their protests and also urging the president to embrace dialogue. So what form or direction is this dialogue going to take? That is one of the things that we shall be delving into later on in the program. I will be joined by Honorable Mark Dingo, who is a governance expert and political analyst, and also Bishop Dr. Geoffrey Njuguna, who is a leadership and governance expert for people and politics. So you want to tune into that conversation after the news. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning to you, gentlemen and lady. Indeed, it is the day, and already on social media, all the way, I think, from Sunday after the president's round table there, it's been shut down. KE that is trending. Now there's public notice, especially irate youth of Thika wanting to recall the Member of Parliament, Alice Nganga there. So much is happening, and I just want to sample some of the demands that Generation Z has put forth going forward, and one of them is the scrapping of the position of CASs as well as the office of the First Lady and Second Lady to just cut expenses. They are also wanting all those who've been indicted of corruption cases taken off the board in as far as leadership and governance is concerned, and face the full force of the law. Another issue that also has been brought up is the issue of government appointment based on tribe and nepotism. Well, Generation Z is saying it's a high time that was actually put to an end, and that these government positions should be awarded or appointments should be made by merit. We'll be keeping tabs on that. What is already trending is total shutdown Tuesday. 7 days journey to the new Saba. Well, that's what social media is saying, and you can also be part of the conversation in light of what you were expecting about today. And if you're already moving to your central business district workplace, given that the CBD holds around 85% of workspaces across Nairobi and its environs, how is the atmosphere? Those who've driven into CBD from Thika Road and its environs, while some pockets or some areas of Thika Road are not as busy as you would have expected on a Tuesday morning. I don't know if Victor and especially Mike would be of the same opinion, but I know at around 5:30, well, it was not as busy as we expect, but we'll wait to see, maybe pointing out to uncertainty that is surely hanging above all of us as Kenyans. But before we speak that or even become speculative, let us bring you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines. I'm Regina Manyara. You can get me on X at Ray Manyara and our official station handle. is at KBC Channel 1. Now we start off with matters of the anti-finance bill demos, where the Directorate of Criminal Investigations is on the hunt for persons who infiltrated countrywide-led youth protests on the 25th of June and were captured on CCTV footage, looting, destroying properties and businesses within the Central Business District. As Abdiaziz Hashim now tells us, the detectives have appealed to members of the public to report any of the individuals caught on camera to police stations across the country. Here's that report.
The 1 minute and 33 seconds CCTV footage shared by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI on its X platform shows how a section of individuals broke into a store along Ronald Ngala Street at 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the 25th of June 2024, at the height of the Anti-Finance Bill 2024 demonstrations. The suspects, seemingly young, are seen looting the premises. Branded a group with criminal minds, according to Mohammed Amin-led investigation unit, stated that they took advantage of the peaceful nationwide demonstrations organized by the youth to cause mayhem and loot businesses within the Central Business District. Police also say boutiques, electronic shops and supermarkets were also looted. This revelation comes barely 24 hours after President William Ruto stated that security chiefs are on the trail of the said individuals.
Criminals and other agents who took advantage of a legitimate concern of Kenyans stepped in, went and banned the Chief Justice's office, went and banned City Hall, went and banned Parliament, and destroyed property of innocent citizens.
The head of state revealing that the damage caused to businesses and properties occasioned by the protests are to the tunes of billions of shillings.
2.4 billion of property has been destroyed.
Meanwhile, former Nandi Hills Member of Parliament Alfred Keter has been grilled on allegations of a conspiracy to trafficking firearms and inciting violence, claims he denied.
Talk about this issue, because were it not for the people who took the video and for the video to be viral, maybe I would have lost my life, because the way they did it, it was not a normal arrest. I was abducted.
The former MP was dramatically arrested on Sunday, maintained that his arrest was politically motivated.
They gave some verbal allegations, really nothing, because there's nothing presented officially. Just mere allegations and harassment.
Number one, we are aware that there are still a number of Kenyans, very many Kenyans who are still missing. When we have asked the DCI officers here, they have told us that it is not them who took these people.
And that particular statement was posted on the DCI X page, and it has elicited a lot of responses, especially from the masses, some who are questioning if they give out the goons who infiltrated the crowds, will the police also give up their counterparts who were also part of the protest? And that's a quagmire. Now to the corridors of justice. 15 youth have been presented before the Eldoret Law Court and charged in connection with the last week's finance bill protest in the town. This as the two people have pleaded not guilty to the 3 charges at the Kiambu Law Court, where they were accused of taking part in last week's countrywide protest in Kikuyu town. Here is Ruth Wamboi with the details.
Appearing before Chief Magistrate Mikoyan, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations sought 21 days to hold the accused in custody in order to complete investigations.
Mheshimiwa, ombi langu ni kwa koti hii ni kuweza kupewa siku 21 niweze kukaa na hawa washukiwa ni kukamilisha uchunguzi wangu ambao bado sijakamilisha. He has not given any reason why he did not bring them to court. Some of them, Your Honor, are bearing injuries from the assaults that were inflicted upon them by the police officers who went to arrest them.
The court was informed that the youth were being investigated for crimes ranging from stealing, handling suspected stolen goods, to malicious damage to property.
Thursday ndio ndio uamuzi kulingana na ombi ya mchunguzi wa mashtaka na majibu ambayo nimepata kupitia kwa wakili wenu.
Elset Kembulo, Kot Naftali Njama and Joseph Waweru accused of taking part in last week countrywide protest in Kikuyu town, where the office of the National Government Constituency Development Fund were arraigned.
Kuweka moto kwa gari sajili namba KAH 979S Toyota Land Cruiser ya thamana ya 2,500,000 mali ya National Government Constituency Development Fund.
Senior Principal Magistrate Peter Oko has scheduled a pre-trial conference on the 11th of July. The duo pleaded not guilty to the 3 charges and were released on a 1 million shillings bond with an alternative of a cash bail of 200,000 shillings.
The accused are prohibited from interfering with any of the prosecution witnesses, either directly and or through proxies.
Ruth Wamboi for Good Morning Kenya.
While that was happening, Lands Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome dismissed fresh demands by Generation Z for the government to immediately scrap the housing levy and publish an audit on how the money has been used. Here's an update from Joseph Wahungu.
With youthful demonstrators vowing to head back into the streets Tuesday, the government has continued to urge for sobriety in seeking for solutions to their demands. Lands CS Alice Wahome has particularly cautioned against calls for the government to halt the collection of 1.5% levy to fund the construction of affordable houses in the country.
I already have over 100,000 housing units. If I stopped at this stage, then that would be dead capital investment, and it is Kenyans' money.
Her sentiments were echoed by members of the Nairobi Business Community Organization who have decried massive losses they incurred in the last week's protests.
Apart from mambo na JNC, vile wamekuwa wakichukulia hii jambo, kulikuja watu ambao wamekuwa pia ni wakora, wameingia ndani, wametuharibia biashara.
I understand the president have acknowledged the fact that he have yielded to your demands. He is ready to talk. And I'm calling upon you people to give him time, listen also to him as much as he has listened to you.
Meanwhile, Wahome has announced plans to put in place a new policy on land ownership in the country. She says the new set of laws will curb land grabbing and tampering with land records.
As soon as we finish with the policy, then we'll be able to look at the land law and do rectification or amendment of the law to capture very serious loopholes and gaps that the land grabbers are using, including how we deal with land that was grabbed belonging to the public but grabbed and developed.
Speaking at a public forum in Nairobi's South Ward, Wahome, who was flanked by the area MCA Waithera Chege, said plans are underway to repossess all public land in the area which are acquired illegally by individuals including politicians.
Hapo mbeleni kulikuwa na waizi wale tunaita kwa Kiingereza grabbers, land grabbers, ambaye walikuwa wanafamia kila plot, kila shamba, kila nafasi.
In that particular presser there, the CS also admitted to there being those land cartels that are manipulating some pockets of loopholes within the land laws in the country, and that once that is sealed, then we're going to have a working land system. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Now, Chief Justice Martha Koome has challenged the newly admitted advocates to use their fresh knowledge and skills during this pivotal moment when Kenya is navigating a historic moment where there's public discourse brought about by Gen Z. The President of the Supreme Court further reaffirmed that the courts will remain open and ready to hear and expeditiously determine all cases, especially those presented in connection to the ongoing unrest. Here's Ruth Wamboi.
Milimani Locots was a beehive of activities on Monday. For the first time in history, it became the venue for the admission of the advocates, unlike the norm at the Supreme Court. Chief Justice Martha Koome led the ceremony where over 500 advocates were admitted to be advocates of the High Court.
Profession is saturated. This is a country of 55 million people, and with barely 25,000 lawyers, you are just a drop in the bucket. There is something for each one of you to do.
It is here that Koome took a swipe at Kenyans who attacked the court's key infrastructure, citing courts as the last bastions for the rule of law and havens of justice.
Use your voices and skills to help us respect human rights, to promote national unity, and to seek stability of our nation.
The Chief Registrar of Judiciary, Winfrida Mokaya, said while picketing is guaranteed in the Constitution, those engaging in protest should conduct themselves in a peaceful manner that does not threaten life or property.
Therefore, serving on the bench requires not only legal acumen, but also impartiality, wisdom, and a deep sense of fairness.
Law enforcement agencies have been urged to process any alleged criminal acts within the law and avoid any temptations to use extra legal means like abductions.
Please be careful with what you do with your clients' monies. Use your own. It's very easy to do that.
Talking up from someone who has benefited from mentorship, from those who have struggled before me, those who have walked in these shoes before me. I'm a clear beneficiary of mentorship of so many seniors that have held my hand, and that has helped me get to the position I am today.
The young advocates have promised to bring vibrant and fresh ideas that will raise the legal profession to the next level.
We are going to get to serve everyone selflessly, and we are going to fight for everybody's rights and see to it that we have a better country than it is at the moment.
To be part of what is currently going on in the country, we are very ready to uphold the rule of law. So that is why we needed to be admitted today.
The protests across the country also impacted on the Supreme Court, and the facilities there were damaged, and the environment was not conducive.
We are just happy to be advocates. That's our goal, just to start work and just begin helping to build this country.
They have been reminded that no one will remember their big cars or expensive suits, but rather the humanity and justice that they administered to Kenyans. Ruth Wamboi reporting from Milimani Locots.
And I like what Chief Justice Martha Koome said, that it is not about what you have, but what you do for the people. A call to servant leadership there for advocates. Congratulations to the ladies and gentlemen there. Now to matters business. The sugar sector stakeholders from Western Kenya, Sugar Belt, are calling for a speedy mediation of sticky issues in the Sugar Bill 2022 to allow its assenting into law. Now, the stakeholders claim the reforms contained in the bill need to be implemented as soon as possible for the sugar subsector to operate optimally. Weekly for Ketch with the details.
The Emmanuel Wangwe and David Wakoli sponsored Sugar Bill 2022 proposes a raft of reforms that, if made into law, will streamline operations in the critical sugar subsector. Among the proposed reforms is the establishment of the Kenya Sugar Board, which will be mandated to specifically manage sugar affairs as opposed to the current arrangement where sugar affairs in the country are generalized under the Agriculture and Food Authority. The bill is currently in the mediation stage, having been considered by the bicameral parliament. Sugar stakeholders from the Western Kenya Sugar Belt are, however, calling for speedy resolution to the sticky issues for the bill to be assented to.
Once that bill is signed into law, then cheap financing and money for research will be available for farmers. We also ask that the government has factored Kenya shillings 4 billion in their budget, this year's budget, which was to pay workers in the industry. And as such, we as sugarcane farmers are very thankful first to the government and of His Excellency the President for the deliberate moves that he has made to bring back sugar as a key crop in this country.
Led by Richard Ogendo, the Secretary General of the Kenya Sugarcane Growers Association, the stakeholders noted that optimal operation of the state-owned sugar factories requires an effective managerial framework, such as the government-backed privatization.
We project that if the government continues in the same trajectory by inviting investors into the private sugar mills, that the balance sheets have now been balanced, then by 2026 or early 2027, we will be having a surplus of 150,000 metric tons of sugar ready for export. So instead of Kenya becoming a net importer, we will become a net exporter.
Tunaamini ya kwamba kupitia kwa Kenya Sugar Board, mambo yetu mingi ya miwa itakuja kutekelezwa kulingana na maono ya rais. Hayo maono lazima iwe na legal framework, na legal framework upanzi wa miwa ni kurudishwa kwa Kenya Sugar Board, ambayo itapana nafasi kwanza for Kenya development.
Tomatoes inflation, where the inflation in the month of June is to 4.6%, a 3-year low. The decrease was due to reduced prices of gas, that is LPG and kerosene. Transport costs also dropped by 0.2% between May 2024 and June 2024, mainly due to the decrease in prices of fuel and diesel. Here's Benson Rioba with the details.
The Bureau says the rise in prices of transport, housing and some food commodities and utilities did not affect the overall cost of living. The annual headline inflation rate as measured by the Consumer Price Index was 4.6% in June 2024. The price increase was mainly driven by the rise in prices of commodities under transport, food and non-alcoholic beverages and housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels between June 2023 and June 2024. These three divisions account for over 57% of the weights of the 13 broad categories. The food and non-alcoholic beverages index increased by 0.7% between May 2024 and June 2024. In particular, prices of cabbages, spinach, kale increased by 14.8%, 11.3% and 10.7% respectively between May 2024 and June 2024. Prices of oranges, sugar, maize flour dropped by 2.5%, 2.4% and 2% respectively between May 2024 and June 2024. The housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels index increased by 0.4% between May 2024 and June 2024, mainly due to rise in prices of 200 kilowatts and 50 kilowatts of electricity by 2.9% and 3.4% respectively. This was in spite of a drop in the prices of gas and kerosene by 0.3% and 3.4% respectively during the period. The transport index dropped by 0.2% between May 2024 and June 2024, mainly due to decrease in prices of petrol and diesel by 1.6% and 3.4% respectively.
To sports, Beyond Hopes Africa yesterday conducted the 2024 Grow and Grind Basketball Camp for youth in Nairobi at the Dagoretti High School. Now, the Grow and Grind 2024 Basketball Camp, in partnership with Dan Okeo, a former Kenyan basketball player based in Boston, USA, was celebrating the sport as a powerful tool for social inclusion and fostering friendship, community unity, and a pathway to education, as well as unlocking opportunities for youth in Kenya. The project aims to promote sports inclusion among marginalized communities such as those in the Kakuma camp, Amboseli, Samburu girls, deaf and wheelchair basketball camps across Kenya. The plans are underway to host these camps in various locations across the country, including Samburu, Lamu and Turkana.
It's just a big opportunity to us as teens. Na inatusaidia associate na people from different places, and also inatusaidia like with mental health.
Tangu nizaliwa sijai cheza na disabled, but today is my first time nacheza na disabled, so imetujenga, inatufanya pia tunajua disabled pia tunafaa tukae nao tusiogope kitu kama hiyo.
It's a one of a kind camp because we want to teach our sportsmen basketball fundamentals, because we've realized that you find that our big man, our biggest, our greatest players, wakienda out there, it becomes difficult for them to adapt because maybe there are things that are not taught, you know. Wali learn to basketball from a friend, ama hivyo tu. So we are trying to nurture from as early as 7 years.
Our next generation, honestly, is just focus and just, you know, being just attention to details, and just, you know, don't do bad stuff, and just, you know, stick with sports, stick with academics, stick to the things in life which is just really gonna help you in life, and just try to mold you to be the best version of yourself.
Well, that puts a cap on Matters News this morning. Be sure to be keeping tabs on what is happening on our various social media platforms, and you can also be part of the conversation at a day when we're expecting to see another round of protests. We'll be keeping tabs on that. We are open to your feedback. You can get us on X at KBC Channel 1. Have a pleasant viewing ahead.
Basi hapo mzee.
Mbura, hujua ni mtoto mdogo sana kunizuia mimi siseme?
Na kuzuia ndio.
Usijifanye hujui ninachoongea.
Sijifanyi, sijui unachosema.
Tafuta mke wa kuoa kabla ya jaribio.
Na hilo jambo ndilo linalonichanganya. Lipo.
Tena ukome kunisingizia masuala ya watoto.
Kuna uko juu siku hizi kama mkungu wa ndizi eh? Juu usijitie hapa juu mkwa bingwa siku hizi eh? We koma hapa kwetu panalitosha, umenisikia?
Mwalimu, Angie's mother shares birthday day with Fala's girlfriend.
Really? What a weird coincidence.
You and I both can agree that all this is not for Sisha.
Saitan. See, I thought we said we are not going to speak about that Jechian again. Why are you spoiling my mood, Yawa?
Please, say what is wrong, eh?
Please, what? You think I'm one of those women you are calling?
Mwalimu, can you imagine Sister wants to kill Ngalo?
Maybe it is you.
Me? Why? What did I do to you?
Rodrigo, I just came here to tell you that I already canceled the trip that we were planning to take. I believe that with everything that has happened, it doesn't make much sense.
I can't be in that house anymore. Really? It's all because of her again, right? No. It's because Oligario is the person that truly bothers me.
Going to let anyone ever hurt or harm you. I'm not going to let anybody hurt you. But I will protect my father from anyone who will try to hurt him as well.
Las Bandidas.
Welcome back. My name is Mike Migwe and you're watching Good Morning Kenya. This is People and Politics. And my guests are already in studio. On my far right is Honorable Mark Adingo, who is a governance expert and political analyst. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Mike.
On my immediate left is Bishop Dr. Geoffrey Njuguna, who is a leadership and governance expert. Karibuni sana.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, karibu sana. How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing well. Of course, we all, whenever we are and praying that things are calm.
Yes.
And Kenyans are great people.
Yes.
Because unless provoked, Kenyans are very resilient. So I'm happy everything is calm, and I pray that remains the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you make of the events that have happened in the past few weeks?
These events, we have been thinking very deeply about what triggered this, and sometimes we have struggled to know whether could it be something just beyond the. But I think it's been very, very evident that young people and maybe even many Kenyans get disappointed because of feeling like their leaders are not in touch with them in a way that they are hearing. But when I'm talking about the finance bill, it's because for me as a church leader, we got involved. For the first time, I printed the finance bill and read it. And others have not read. Sometimes I've picked what is in the paper, but this time I chose to read it. And we were among the people that met the finance committee and pointed out specific issues that were very disturbing. But good enough, when they came out of Naivasha, most of the things we raised had been dropped. But my concern right now is because I love young people. I'm a grandfather now. I'm not just a father, I'm a grandfather.
Yes.
And the welfare of the young people is very important. So my prayer is that all of us understand we need to keep the peace. The politicians, because let me give you, a good description of politics. Good politics is about being responsible. But you see, many times, and I'm glad I have a political analyst here, a lot of people go into politics for the money it will bring to them. Because there are two kinds of politicians. There are politicians that are philosophical, but there are others who are merchants. So if we can trust God that the next crop of politicians will be philosophical, guided by good moral values, because the problem we have in this country, from the politicians to everybody else, it's not that we don't have a good constitution. It is actually what can be called a software problem, which is an issue of the heart. And for me as a preacher, I give hope. And even during COVID time, I was on social media telling people keep hope alive. And that's what I've come here with a desire to say to our politicians. And by the way, the challenge we are facing in the country right now is not about the president. It's about all of us. So if you're a leader and you influence any constituency, let us secure the country. Because we don't have another country. So, and I believe we will in concurrence with my friend who is a political person. And this is quite an interesting combination to bring a politician and a clergyman, but I'm sure we will be together.
Yes. Mr. Mark, what I want to know what you make out of this event. And so far, it also speaks to matters of trust in the institution of Parliament. What do you make of that?
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for inviting me here.
Yes.
Yeah, I think at the moment, Kenya is in a very interesting situation. Because one, we have reached a point where we've been talking to each other. Yeah, but now it has given us some time to see how we can talk to one another. I think the issues being raised by the Gen Z, not necessarily issues to do with the Gen Z, but they affect all of us. And this is the right time for all of us to listen to one another. It's the right time for everybody, every leader, to have a good time so that we can sort out our things together. Because for me, I don't think the issues being raised are only about the finance bill. It's more of that. Yeah, things have been boiling. I can say 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, But this is a moment that we can grasp that time and sit down as a country and find ways of how we are going to move forward. Because the problem we have is more of governance, not about the finance bill. Yeah, how our leaders lead us, how our leaders listen to their people, because our country has always been respected worldwide in terms of democracy. But if we can have a good foundation on how we are going to be governed by our people, how we are going to govern our children, how we are going to govern our people, I think this can give us a good chance to transform our country.
The finance bill was just the trigger to bigger issues that affect the country, not only the Gen Z.
Very well.
Yeah. Now, let's take a quick look at what the newspapers are reporting today. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto's budget doublespeak. That is what is carried on the front page of the Daily Nation, whereas the president has directed Treasury to implement budget cuts across the national and county governments. His push for more borrowing beats the very purpose which the austerity measures were intended to achieve. Bishop, what do you make of this?
Well, I'm very concerned about when we talk about borrowing, because we are already in a bad place. I know that when he addressed Parliament, if not for the first time, he said that he was going in the next number of years cut the budget with 300 billion. That one I remember very well.
Yeah.
But I want to say that the issue of public debt, first we need to be grateful to God that we got a relief through of course, we are not happy with the IMF and World Bank, but at least they helped us because they relieved us of the pressure we had about the Eurobond and gave us an extension. And that's why we did not fail to keep that obligation. So in terms of the ideas of the president and why people would feel it's double talk, and I pray it's not, it's because what people want to see, it's like now, I was one of the delegates in the Public Wage Bill Conference, and wonderful, wonderful ideas were shared there. They even at that time said something that was very, very, very good, that they were going to do an audit to know whether there are people occupying public offices without proper credentials and weed them out. You know, that will reduce the cost. So what I'm saying is, if our president can be able to prevail on his cabinet, prevail on all those people who are the higher earners in our society, to be willing to take a pay cut. Because, listen, the universal acceptable public wage bill is said to be should be 35%. Ours is at 46%. And that is why now it becomes so difficult. So what I'm suggesting is we need, so that it can be seen to be a reality. And for some reason, and of course we are all different. We all have different opinions. We are a democracy. So somebody cannot condemn you because of the choices you make when it comes to politics. But because of the challenge that we are having, we can just try, and I'm so happy that he is saying of course, he is talking to people and needs to talk some more. How long? When are we going to have a national conversation that brings all the people, the civil society, religious leaders, politicians, and they come from all the regions to represent, and then we have an honest conversation. Because what we need to do is to dialogue, and dialogue has always helped. You remember, of course, we had demonstrations that were led by the opposition. You remember that time?
Yes.
And we didn't know what to do. But because of dialogue, that was over. Now we are dealing with a community of people who need to be persuaded, because you realize the opposition, like I had the former PM say, they have told me, weka kado. But the key thing is this: I feel it's the responsibility of all people to say, how do we secure the country? And if the president is willing to talk to everybody, we need to see that he is open to talk to the opposition, talk to the youth, talk to everybody, so that he can, again, be given specific practical things he can do. I heard him say, you may ask me to do some things that I can't do, because I'm also guided by a constitutional mandate, because he's been challenged about the filing of the agriculture, CS and all that. And he said, listen, this thing went through a process. I can't fire somebody just because, I mean, if time came, and he has said, and I hope he can carry this out, that if any person in his government is corrupt, he will not cover them. But I'm hearing what the young people are saying. Let us see something happening that can persuade us that we are cutting expenditure. I raised the issue of government expense in some articles because I'm involved in a lot of governance issues. I wrote an article that the crisis we are in as a country is that we created very big governance representation. And I'm still persuaded, and I know I'm saying it on public television, Kenyans are overrepresented. But now, nobody wants to hear about cutting counties. They actually are saying they need to be increased. You have had that talk. One person, and I can't mention names, who was a senator at the time in Coast Province, said in a meeting I was, organized by the Catholic, it was a Catholic meeting, but I attended, that any sensible Kenyan would know that we don't need more than 14 counties. Are you listening? But how many do we have? 47. They all have the governors and so there are so many employees. So this public wage bill, it's easier to say that we are going to cut it than it is a reality, because it means governors accepting to take a pay cut. All the members of parliament accepting will take a pay cut.
Is it possible? Can they take that initiative?
The challenge now is if you tell them to take a pay cut and then the tax is raised.
Because even the Gen Z are proposing that members of parliament be earning not more than 200,000 shillings.
Let me tell you, where we are now, and that's why I'm saying we need a public conversation, an honest conversation. Because again, you see, corruption, we have had it from time to time from the Auditor General over the years, that we are losing a third of our income through corruption. You have heard that. Now, the question is this. Corruption is when there is dishonesty and where somebody uses an office to benefit themselves. And that's why I say that if somebody is in government, and we should be held to account, even for me as a senior pastor of Deliverance Church, Nangata, where I pastor, I cannot do whatever I want to do. I have to invite people and tell them, please hold me to account, because it is so important. Leadership is about being responsible. And that's what I'm saying, because we want to secure this nation. If somebody calls themselves a leader, whether from the religious sector, whether from the political sector, regardless of your party, because let me tell you, Kenyans don't care about parties. What Kenyans care for is about good governance. And good governance is what gives people good roads, medicine in their hospitals, and schools running well. And let me tell you, when schools programs are running well, do you care whether you are in Azimio or in UDA?
No.
And all this is about governance. There's a Nigerian who has said a statement which I think every one of us should think about, that good governance is what will kill corruption.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Good governance will kill corruption. Because if police officers are not remunerated well, they are subjected to feel like they have to stop you and you get something in their hands because they cannot make their heads meet. But if there was good governance and a good distribution of resources in a responsible way, and we were willing to bite the bullet and get the government cut. Let me tell you, during the time of President Uhuru, after the handshake, I was very hopeful that they have come together. I was hoping that was the time we were going to cut government, because it's a legislative issue. But now when that didn't happen, we are still in the same place, shareable revenue, and all that.
All right. Now, Mr. Mark, I want to know how you feel about this headline, Ruto's budget double speak, and how this now is going to be a very delicate balancing act between expenditure and revenue sides.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I will start from where this government took over. Yeah. I remember the president gave instructions so that all ministries can cut budget by over 300 billion. Yeah, and then after that, that was done. After 1.5 years, the budget rose to almost 4.2 trillion. I think that's where we lost it, because if we can manage to stop these issues of corruption, if we can manage to stop wastages, because you'll find I don't think the budget we have is not enough. The only problem we have is we're having a lot of wastages and a lot of corruption.
What about priorities?
And then there's also a very important point you are raising, priorities. We are doing things which are not even our priority. And I think that has brought us to where we are now. And this conversation, I hope and I believe, if we are all sincere and we sit down with sober minds, I'm sure we're going to get a solution. Because, Migwi, if we can only stop things of development, at least for now, and we give ourselves like 10 years so that we can return our country back to where it was. Let's get money from, let's see how we can improve on our collection, on our revenue. And let's not have a bloated cabinet. Because I remember when Kibaki took over, he had a very lean government of less than 14 ministers. But in a situation like ours, we are having many ministers. And if we continue to put so much in salaries, I think we'll be missing the point. So what I would say is, let's have a conversation. Let's get our priorities, what is supposed to be done. We need to have money for the counties, because I don't agree with those saying we need to cut the size of the county governments, because since the devolution, a lot has happened. A lot of development is going down to the person down there. So I would say let's have money for the county governments. Let's have money for the government, for the three arms of the government, that is the presidency, the executive and the judiciary. Then we need to find ways of how we can stop corruption.
Yes.
Because no matter how much we raise and no matter how much budget we have, and we fail to put it in the right hands, we will always be down with the issues of having enough money. We want to borrow, because I think borrowing is good, but also we need to borrow money and put it somewhere where our people can see some things are happening. Because in our case, you find, and you have raised a very important issue of trust. You find the government borrows a lot of money, but when it comes to implementation, that money, our people cannot even find where they can trace that money. So there are also issues of trust. And I think all of this, the budgeting, the corruption, it can be very well solved if we can have a national conversation. I think the president should have a national conference where we have all stakeholders, so that we can discuss about our issues of this country. Because I think more of our problems is because we don't involve our people. And the same thing is happening with the agencies.
Yeah.
Because I've never been involved in governance. That's why you find them. They want to be more involved, which is good. And I wish to say that was a good trigger, because now it has given us a platform where we can sit down and discuss issues for our country.
But even as you talk about that, we are good at having dialogue and coming up with reports. Where do we fail? Because implementation has always been a problem. What goes wrong?
Yes, that's why I said we have very good ideas. We have very good views. But when it comes to implementation, that's where the problem is. Of recent, we had the Nadico report, which brought, which stopped the demonstration from the opposition. But the report is lying down there. It has not been implemented. So we need also to be honest on ourselves when we have these conversations. Whatever we agree, we need to implement it. Because talking is one thing, implementation is another thing. Yeah.
So, Dr. Where do you think, in terms of, what do you think needs to change if at all we are to implement whatever we talk and agree about as a country?
What we need to do is to get all leaders take responsibility in their area seriously. Because you see, like now, he's just mentioned about the NADCO report. One of the things that has disturbed me personally from a governance perspective is that knowing how elections are emotive in this country, we have not reconstituted the electoral body. And you know, there was a select committee that went out and they did a lot. They could not continue because the opposition said, no, we were not represented. And then in the Interreligious Council, as one of the and made a proposal. Instead of all this argument, why don't you add two people, one from UDA, then reconstitute now where everybody is feeling represented. But you see, because one of the things that is so worrying about this country, and I don't know how we are going to resolve it, is that issue of trust. Because when trust is not there, and I say, if you are a leader, leadership between those you are leading and you as a leader, and they have a certain expectation. So if you're not in touch with them, if you're not doing what you promise, let me tell you, I pray, and it's still my prayer, that before the end of this year, before the end of 2024, whatever has delayed this will be done. Because if we don't bring an extra body, who will have enough years, and we have a 2027 coming, and we know how elections are emotive in this country, then are we trying to get to a situation where we are going to run into another crisis? Every time when people don't accept results, they have to go to the Supreme Court and all this. And we need to believe that institutions, and I like the fact that the President has repeated many times, that we are a country that has to adhere to the rule of law. But even in adhering to the rule of law, laws are not the issue, like I said in the beginning. It's those who execute, those who implement. You're talking about implementation. Why has it been difficult for the implementation of the NADCO report? How long since it went to Parliament? Why is it not executed? Can we know which is the gap? Right now, I think Parliament is in recess. Can it be taken as a question of big priority that especially for the reconstitution of the electoral body, we have Kenyans in this country who have not been represented by a member of parliament for almost 2 years now, because their member of parliament died, but there was no. So I think I agree with what this has been discussed here by the political analysts, that we have a problem in executing, and let me tell you, government does not have any shortage of good policies. Even on the youth, if you check out what was the youth policy, one of the things that was in the youth policy is that young people were going to be involved in governance. But now maybe they're asking, okay, and sure enough, of course, even in Parliament, we have. But I don't know what happens, because it seems in this country, unlike some of the countries in our neighborhood, once I was in Addis Ababa for a conference, and they told us, for us here, when you become a member of Parliament for the first time, you even can't change where you live. No, you can't. You can't afford it. But what happens in our country? You just become a member of Parliament. The first term, you move, you change your residence, you change the car you are driving. Is it not true? You change everything. Yes. And so that is why now the temptation to engage with some degree of corruption becomes greater to be able to cope. And again, politics has become a big game of money, so that somebody wins a political position, not because they are a leader, but because they can be able to buy people. And sometimes you have had even where people, I had years back, where in a certain constituency, they were telling you, give me your ID, shika hii 100 ama shika hii 50. So that you are completely, you can't be able to engage in the politics. But I want to say this because it's very important. And as a preacher, let me put it this way to all politicians and officials of government. The Bible says in Luke 12:15, guard your heart from all kinds of greed. Yes. For one's life does not consist on the things you possess.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk more on that, because there's something you have raised, and it's about the people we elect. And we are going to explore that in a bit. Don't go too far. This is People in Politics on Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe. Stay with us.
Basi hapo mzee. Mbura, unajua ni mtoto mdogo sana kunizuia mimi siseme?
Na kuzuia ndio.
Usijifanye hujui ninachoongea.
Sijifanyi, sijui unachosema.
Tafuta mke wa kuoa kabla ya jaribio. Na hilo jambo ndilo linalonichanganya hapa.
Tena ukome kunisingizia masuala ya watoto.
Kuna kwa juu siku hizi kama mkubwa ndizi Juu? Usijitie hapa juu. Mkubwa bingwa siku hizi We, koma. Hapa kwetu panalitosha. Umenisikia?
When are you ever going to stop?
Surely you are not one to doubt the repercussions?
To the ring. Kaikara has not yet won.
Did he grow weak or something?
It's time to show Kaikara Joy left her man here.
We'll create a small scandal.
Hello?
Just follow my...
The only problem I have is you driving that agenda to achieve something. Shame on you.
Pressure babangu inapanda daily. I want to end this once and for all.
What are you doing here? Talk about. What happened?
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Kenya. Honorable Mark Dingo and Bishop Dr. Geoffrey Jogona in studio, tackling various issues that are affecting the country. And before we went on a break, you said something about the leaders we elect, and something clicked in my mind. Even as a people, there's a problem that comes up when we are electing people. We do not fully scrutinize their intention or whatever they are bringing to the table. And this has led us to this situation. Bishop.
I want to say this to Kenyans watching everywhere, and I know this goes beyond our borders. When you are electing a leader, find out their track record. Not what they are promising to do, but what have they already done. And we some are guided by certain philosophies of leadership that are not supposed to be self-centered, but are supposed to be for the welfare of all. But I dare say, and I know I may not be a friend of many politicians for saying this, but we have so many politicians who are merchants. They are there to make the money. And that's why the issue of salary, you address the issue of salaries.
Yeah.
If you talk about reducing salary, I used to work for the government myself. And you're talking about you're talking about the early 90s. Are you listening? And what I was working actually at a salary section. You remember the office of the president, when you go there is a place where there was like the salary section, and the difference between then and now, we were using these big ledgers. I don't know if you can remember those things. But that time, the position of an MP was not attractive because they were receiving very little. Now we have made the salary of an MP so big that it becomes a matter of life and death to secure that position. Now, if these people are public servants and they realize that the country is hurting so bad because of the economic challenges, those who are philosophical leaders will be willing to take a pay cut for the sake to tell the president, please, instead of borrowing 1 trillion to fund your government in the next 1 year, I'm ready to take a pay cut so that we can reorganize. But this can only come because of honesty and also the idea of our anti-corruption body. Because now we have a chairman who is a former bishop, you know, as chairman of the anti-corruption body. We have this report that they investigated 17 files and they thought it was airtight. When they took them to the director of public prosecution, he only admitted 1 and returned the other 1. My prayer, 2 things I think will be very, very important. When we go to the next election, because the ones who are there now, and I want to make a passionate, very humble appeal to our young people. Please understand the contract between us and these leaders who are there is 5 years. And let us prepare for 2027. If we say we are going to rock everything down and, you know, like some of the things we are hearing, of course, our young people say, we can go into a crisis that can put us far back. And look at countries like Sudan, look at some of the countries where these revolts have come. It's just something very, very positive. Because, you know, we have, if you read the history of Mahatma Gandhi, his was a peaceful protest. Achieved the desired objective. Martin Luther King is still celebrated. Even if he was shot, his was a peaceful agenda. Let me pray that if these young people must demonstrate, because it's in the Constitution, please let us see how do we keep them as young people doing it without infiltration, because I'm sure they are not the ones who knocked the walls of Parliament. They are not the ones who rooted that supermarket there. So we really need to think about that national conference, and I think it should be sooner than later, where we can talk openly and let us, of us who are in the media, remember that when you report, all media houses, we appreciate that you are giving information. But remember this information now with the digital issue, it goes out so quickly. And I live in America. I did my studies in America. There are things that sometimes happens that are so terrible in some of the cities in America, but they never go beyond that locality.
Yeah.
This is localize some news so that we can save the image of this country that we love.
Thank you. Now, on the front page of the Standard, between a rock and a hard place, that is what the Standard is carrying through. The youth are occupying everywhere to honor their fallen comrades and to put pressure on the government on matters governance. Bwana Mark, are we going to see a shift in terms of governance in this country, given the issues raised by Gen Z?
Yeah, thank you. I think the situation we are now, I'm very sure is going to give us some changes, because leaders are elected by the people, and when your people talk and ask you to follow a certain route, as a leader you need to listen and follow. And I see the issues which have been brought by the Gen Z are very important issues, and they are very good for our country. And I want to say, since the president has agreed to talk to them, the only issue which has been raised has been the issue of trust, because the Gen Zs fear that any time they talk, any policies which are going to be made by the government won't be implemented. But I think we cannot we cannot say that we are not going to reach somewhere. So I think once we have this conversation, and people bring in their ideas, we are going to have some changes. And I see a different country, Kenya, in the coming years. Because for one, we have gotten a different group of people who wants to be heard and who wants to have this country to be run in a transparent way. And this is it's a departure from the past, where we used to have the opposition as the one driving the opposition for the government. This time we are having a different opposition. And I want to believe their issues are very, very weighty, and they are going to help our country to move forward. Because if you look at what they are saying with the budget, if we can listen to them and we do some of the things, I know some things might be even not possible because of this is a country which is governed by law, and if we can balance whatever the Gen Z are asking and follow the law, I'm sure we are going to put our country in a better position. One, the president should look at the priorities, because I don't think it is wise. Every time we have a new government or we have a new minister, you get into your office, and the first thing you are going to do is to buy new furniture. The second thing you want to do is you want to paint the office. Those are some of the things we are doing. The Gen Z are saying those are wastages. So we need to stop one on the wastages. And I think also we need also to do some radical things. The president might also think of how he can reduce the cabinet. We have ministers of not more than 10. Let's have PSCs of not more than 10, so that whatever we are going to get from the KRA, we can put it in good use. Something else which needs also to be done is the issue of corruption. We need to see people being prosecuted up to the end.
Up to the end.
You take somebody to court, the case takes less time, and we see that person being jailed. Because unless we have we have some things done radically and practical, I think we'll continue to be talking.
Does it also speak to the goodwill of the government in terms of fighting corruption? Because I think that is an area where many people see that the government fails in terms of goodwill.
Yeah. You know, the government, all the governments talk about corruption, and unless we see it being done practically, we start from the top down to from the executive down to the counties. I think we'll be just talking for the sake of talking, because one of the things which has brought our country back to its knees is corruption. He has said it. Anytime you get elected, you want to buy a new car, you want to buy a new house, and if we look at the salaries of these leaders, they don't match whatever they are doing.
No.
You've heard what the Gen Zs have been doing out there. I've been asking. We have people who just got into the government the other day, but in less than 2 years, you find somebody's giving 20 million in a fundraising. You wonder where these people are getting money, and the economy is too bad. So I think we need to change on the way we do our things. And also, I think we also have a problem. You talk about the politicians. You know, the politicians we have is a reflection of the society.
Yes.
That is what we are. We are the ones who put them there. And because one of the things which has made corruption to be practiced in most of these offices by the politicians is the process they undergo before they become elected. You find somebody spent, like an MCA will spend not less than 10 million to get that seat. And if you compare that amount with the kind of salary he's going to get, that person will be forced to maybe find other ways of getting that money back. The same way applies to the MP. MP will spend not less than 20 million before, at least the minimum.
10 million.
And if you are elected, the salary and whatever the benefits you get, you'll find that you want to get more money so that next time you be elected. So we also have a problem with our community, the way we have been socialized. We believe anybody who comes with a lot of money is the right person to be elected. So we need also to talk to the community, the electorate, so that they can scrutinize our leaders.
It also means there must be a shift in the mindset, in the way we see people that we elect.
Yes. And that, I think, we are going there. Because if you look at the Gen Zs, what is happening now, they are questioning the people who they elected. Those who elected, who voted no, who voted yes for the finance bill, are having issues with the Gen Z. And I think that is a good thing, because moving forward, in the future, that conversation can go down to the electorate, whereby people will elect people who can listen to them. Because a good leader is one who listens to his people. And unless you listen to your people, you have no business of leading them. So I think that we are having issues, but I think if we can have an honest conversation and put everything on table and implement whatever is going to come out of it, we'll see some changes for our country.
Doctor, you have to agree that this is a generation or a demographic that is well informed and is tech savvy. They know the happenings or the things that are affecting the country. And now that the dialogue is the dialogue option has been placed on the table, where or how do you see, what form do you see it taking and the direction of the same?
One thing, if this dialogue is going to take place, it needs to be representative. In other words, there has to be a way we know that we are getting young people from all over the country. And remember, these protests have taken place across the country. But it's important to give dialogue a chance. And there's something I feel that you have said that is very important about revenue collection. I don't want to lose that thought. I'm appealing to the Kenya Revenue Authority to contemplate on how they can hire even some of these young people who are looking for jobs who have done anything to do with public relations. Because I'm still persuaded if we use a strategy of persuading people why we must pay tax for good governance, for us to be able to run the government. And it's actually something captured in the word of God in the book of Proverbs 22, verse 7 to 9, says, the rich rule over the poor. Now, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Now, whoever sows injustice reaps calamity. Justice reaps calamity. And the rod they wield in fury will be broken. Now, but since the generous will themselves be blessed, for they share food with the poor. What I'm saying is this: let Kenya Revenue Authority hire people who have studied public relations. Let them go everywhere and tell Kenyans, please, you can pay tax to liberate our country from bondage. Because now we are slaves. If the president is going to borrow another 1 trillion to further his government this year, it will put us deeper in trouble. Because remember, the government is such a huge machinery. We have the men in uniform. We have a budget for schools, a budget for hospitals, a budget, so they're so huge. And I still agree with you. I don't know whether it can be done now to cut the cabinet to half. That is going to be a very tough decision because everybody who wants to lose their position. But can we then say that we are going to fight corruption hard and there be evidence even that the Gen Zs will see, surely the president has heard. Because right now, like you're saying, he is between a rock and a hard place.
That is what the
and let me tell you, we also need to be aware. And we need to, and I would have wanted to know, is this just about the Gen Zs, or could there be people underneath who are faceless, who are engineering them? And that's why we said in our statement, because we issued a statement as the Intelligence Council not long ago. We said it will be immoral for any politician to try to get mileage from this grave situation. This is a very serious issue because you're talking about the nation. And this nation, we want Kenya to be a good place for us, for our children, and for our grandchildren. And the other day, I learned that even my grandkids could not do exams because the things were very chaotic. So we are begging our young people. I wish they can know how important it is they are to this society. And I said many, many times, they are greater stakeholders for the well-being of this country than those of us who are a bit older. So they don't know, you do not have to, if you know that the president has heard, can we give him a chance to see whether he's going to implement what is being suggested?
They have said they want to have that dialogue with the president, but he must, the dialogue will happen on X space.
And the president has agreed?
Yes. The president has agreed. So that is where I'm asking, how or what form is this conversation going to take?
The challenge of just going there, how many of us, I don't know about him,
yes.
I try to be as digital as possible, but I'm not. I don't know whether I want to engage in the X platform. For me, I would be happier that even after they do that, yes. Because I had the president said it will happen tomorrow and the day after. Yes. But in another 2 weeks, can there be a national conference where now even these young people will come and present a document making proposals, how will government raise the revenue? And then it comes from the religious sector, the civil society, all this, so that we can be saying, Mr. President, We know you told us you inherited a government that was had empty coffers, but you have been collecting tax. We want to make sure the tax you are collecting, we are using it in a transparent way. We don't want to see your cabinet going around showing off, and let me tell you, when you are full, cover your stomach. Please, when people are suffering, you don't want to go and you are showing them that, because they are asking themselves, where is this coming from?
Quickly, Honorable Dingo, how do you see this conversation going? How will it turn out?
I think, as I said, where we are in a good place, because at least now we are talking and we can have a conversation. The president has agreed to talk to the Gen Z through the X space, which is good, because the issue being raised by the Gen Z of not wanting to have some leaders and some people to sit down with the president are the issues to do with trust, because they fear any time you expose yourself as a leader, you'll be compromised in less than a few days. So it's a good way, and I think the president can go ahead and have a meeting. We can meet the Gen Z through the X space, because what is being asked by that group is they want to see some of the things to be implemented. You'll get their ideas, put them in paper. Then after that, as you have said, we can have a national conference where we can have a larger grouping, where we have all the stakeholders. We can have something like a meeting at Kasarani, where we have different types of leaders, different types of stakeholders. People will come with their memorandum, they will come with their ideas. Then after that, the president can combine all these ideas. The one for the space, from the space Gen Z people, and then the other one from the stakeholders. Then from there we can have a final way of agreeing on some of the things which the president needs to implement. Because I understand, even after giving him those ideas, him as a president, he has his own advisors who will also come up with a different set of ideas. Then we'll come to a middle ground where we can have our country move forward, a win-win situation. But the major problem of that also will come down to, will it be implemented? So we need to have a clear roadmap whereby within a short time or period we have this being implemented. And I think all will be sorted, because I'm very sure even the Gen Z love their country. Everybody loves our country. Nobody wants our country to go into anarchy. We want to have a peaceful country. We have to have a good government whereby the ideas of these people are taken into consideration. So I think we can go there, and I think the conversation will be positive.
Can the church be the voice of reason in all of this? And how
I
is
think
it going to achieve that?
I believe the church can be the hope of reason, because number one, we are not supposed to show as if we are condemning the youth. Neither can we be condemning government, but we need to look for a middle ground where we are looking for a win-win. But that does not mean we don't condemn corruption. Corruption has to be condemned by everybody. But since we are almost closing this program, I want to appeal to the young people of this country. I've written a book, and I didn't talk about it, how we can overcome spiritual lethargy. But I've said that this is the greatest thing that you can do to conquer, to have personal development. Please, I know you have gone to school. Have ideas. Pray that God can give you ideas. Because there are a lot of young people in this country, and these young people can be a great resource. But these young people, if they use the energy, because the Bible says, I'm writing to you young people because you are strong. If they can use that strength positively, and that's what we should encourage them, this country will go places. And let us know Kenya is all of us, and the older and the young, we have to live together.
Yes.
Because these are our children and grandkids. Please don't say that you want to get rid of me because I'm a bit older.
Yes.
I need to embrace you, and we need to show that we are accommodative to each other so that we can build a strong Kenya for all of us to enjoy.
I'll give you 1 minute to talk about this book.
Now, this book,
Yes.
Overcoming Spiritual Lethargy, I wrote it following the COVID-19, but it has a context in which it is encouraging hard work. Because one of the things that we need to understand is that if somebody is lazy,
Yes.
and I say laziness actually is a learned behavior. No one was born lazy.
Yes.
But it's a learned behavior because we fail, and sometimes our parents have to blame that we make it things so easy for our children. They don't even know that they can eat and move the plate from the table to the sink because you have employed a worker. So what this book says is that we need to enhance a culture of hard work.
Yes.
We need to reward hard work. We need to be able to get rid of the average mentality. All those things are in this book, and it's available. But I think I'll leave one of the copies here for you to read and maybe share.
Yes. Bwana Mark, what are your closing remarks?
I think my closing remarks, I would want to say, let the conversation continue between the president and the Gen Z, and let also the communication continue between each stakeholder for this country. And moving forward, I would want to ask our leaders to always listen to their people. And we need also to have only one agenda, one agenda of making our country, Kenya, successful and peaceful, whereby each and everyone loves one another. Then we need to grab this idea of the Gen Z. They have come out tribeless. Let's find ways of doing away with this tribalism, this politics of tribalism, where we have people running behind their leaders. We need to move away from that tribalism and have one country, Kenya, so that we can move ahead with our development.
Gentlemen, your time is much appreciated.
Yes.
That is Honorable Mark Dingo, the governance and political analyst, and also Bishop Dr. Geoffrey Njuguna, leadership and governance expert, joining us here on Good Morning Kenya for People and Politics. My name is Mike Migwe. Don't go too far. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly, but now on Radio Taifa with Rashid Mumkondo. Stay with us.
Basi hapo mzee. Mbura, Unajua ni mtoto mdogo sana kunizuia mimi siseme.
Na kuzuia ndio.
Usijifanye hujui ninachoongea.
Sijifanyi, sijui unachosema.
Tafuta mke wa kuoa kabla ya jaribio. Na hilo jambo ndilo linaloleta mimi hapa.
Tena ukome kunisingizia masuala ya watoto.
Kuna uko juu siku hizi kama mkubwa ndizi Juu usijitie hapa juu mkubwa bingwa siku hizi We koma hapa kwetu panalitosha. Umenisikia?
Mwalimu, Angie's mother shares Zimbabwe day with Palace girlfriend.
Really? What a weird coincidence.
You and I both can agree that all this is not for Sisha.
Saitan. See, I thought we said we are not going to speak about that yet again. Why are you spoiling my mood, Yawa?
Please, you say, what is wrong,
Please, what? You think I'm one of those women you are calling?
Mwalimu, can you imagine Sister wants to kill Ngalo?
Maybe it is you.
Me? Why? What did I do to you?
From an early age, Esther Marugi always aspired to be something great, something that would see her leave Gediro village in Nyeri and move away from the already beaten paths that those came before her trod. Marugi was first introduced to education at the Gediro Primary School before joining Highlands Secondary School, today Moi Girls Eldoret, for her secondary education. She then enrolled at the University of Nairobi in 1973 for a land economics degree course. At the time, land economics was perceived oppressive of men. Records from the University of Nairobi show her class of 40 only had 2 female students. Upon her graduation after 4 years, Marugi was quickly absorbed into the public sector, joining the Ministry of Lands as a lands officer in 1977. She left public service only to return years later. When the second multi-party elections came around in 1997, she threw her heart into the ring. She lost to Wanyeri Kihoro. In 2002, she contested the Nyeri Town parliamentary seat again. Peter Gishahi Moreithi beat her to the ticket and won the seat in a landslide victory. Although she lost, Marugi had been a vocal campaigner for National Rainbow Coalition.
Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba mpenzi mtazamaji wa runinga unayoenzi ya KBC Channel 1. Ikiwa hivi sasa ni saa 2 na dakika 10 saa za kanda ya Afrika ya Mashariki. Ni Jumanne nyingine tena mtazamaji. Uno kabisa, leo ni tarehe 2 mwezi Julai mwaka wa 2024. Kumbuka siku ya Jumapili ulimwengu utakuwa unaadhimisha siku ya Kiswahili duniani, na kwa mara ya kwanza katika kanda hapa barani Afrika Mashariki na Kati, sherehe hizi zitakuwa zinaandaliwa nchini Kenya na zinatarajiwa kuandaliwa mjini Mombasa. Turathi na jinsia imeandaa siku 3 za sherehe hizi. Sherehe kuu ni Jumapili tarehe 7, na taarifa za kuaminika na za kusadikika zinaarifu huenda Rais Daktari William Ruto akawa mgeni rasmi katika sherehe za Kiswahili Julai 7. Yote 9 mtazamaji, ikiwa hivi sasa ni saa 2 kama nilivyokuambia na dakika 10. Kenya kwa sasa mtazamaji iko katika hali ya mshike. Katika kipindi cha wiki 2 sasa kumekuwa na mijadala kuhusu hali ya uchumi wa taifa, usalama wa taifa na masuala ya vijana almaarufu Gen Z ambao wanataka sauti zao zisikike katika taifa la Kenya. Kumbuka, baada ya maandamano wa vijana wa Gen Z kwa kipindi cha wiki 2, mswada wa kifedha wa mwaka wa 2024 kumradhi, ulitupiliwa mbali na Rais Daktari William Ruto. Swala kuu kwenye mswada huo lilikuwa ongezeko la kodi mbalimbali mtazamaji. Viongozi wa kisiasa, wa kidini wamejaribu kadiri ya uwezo wao kutafuta mbinu za kutuliza lakini hali bado haijabadilika. Kunani? Rais William Ruto katika mahojiano yake ya kipekee na vyombo vya habari humu nchini siku ya Jumapili alisema atafanya mazungumzo na haswa vijana ili kulainisha matakwa yao. Rais vile pia alisema mazungumzo yatabainisha mikakati mwafaka ya kuendeleza taifa la Kenya. Je, ni mikakati ipi inafaa kuwekwa ili kulainisha taifa la Kenya haswa baada ya vijana kujitokeza na kutaka sauti zao zisikike? Hii leo studioni nitaanza na katikati. Ninaye seneta maalum Bi Tabitha Mutinda. Karibu sana ndani ya studio.
Asante sana.
Na nitakwenda moja kwa moja kushoto kule ambapo kuna bwana mmoja Kala Akashiba, mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa, bwana David Alulu. Karibu sana ndani ya studio zetu.
Shukran Rashid.
Na karibu yangu hapa niko na kijana chipukizi, Mheshimiwa Nolfason Barongo, engineer, huyu mbunge wa Boma Choge Borabu. Karibu sana mheshimiwa ndani ya studio zetu.
Asante sana Rashid.
Karibuni sana. Labda tu kabla kuingia moja kwa moja kwenye mada ya siku, nikianza nawe hapa Mheshimiwa Nolfason Barongo, labda kwa tathmini yako kifupi tu matukio ambayo yamejiri humu nchini katika siku za hivi karibuni yanasema kwamba huu ni ukomavu wa demokrasia.
Ndiyo kabisa, katiba yetu iko very clear kwamba all sovereign power belongs to the people. Yale ambayo tumeshuhudia ni kwamba Kenya nzima vijana wamejitokeza ambao wanajulikana kama Gen Z, wamejitokeza kabisa bila kuzingatia kabila, bila kuwa na chama ama bila kuwa na uoga wowote, kujitokeza kushinikiza serikali kwamba na mabadiliko ya kimsingi ili kuweza kusecure ile future ambayo wao wanaitazamia. So ni swala ambalo lingetokea pengine kitambo kidogo, lakini ni swala ambalo jinsi namna ambavyo limechipuka vema, kwa sababu serikali ya Kenya kwanza pia ilikuwa imefika wakati haikuwa inaelekezwa sawa. So maandamano haya yamefanya ile kitu ambayo tunaita reset kwa mtazamo wa serikali jinsi inavyoendesha shughuli ya wananchi.
Asante sana kwa utangulizi wako Mheshimiwa Engineer Nolfason Barongo. Labda nirudi kwake Mheshimiwa Senator Tabitha Mutinda. Ni mambo ambayo tulikuwa tukiyashuhudia tu miaka mingi kabla Kenya kujipatia uhuru, ambapo tulikuwa tunaona wanawake, vijana, wazee wetu wakiweza kugawanya majukumu kukabiliana na mkoloni wa Kiingereza. Lakini kwa sasa tunaona tunakabiliana wenyewe kwa wenyewe. Matukio haya Senator yanaashiria nini katika mwamko wa taifa letu la Kenya?
Asante tena sana Rashid. Nianze na kupeana rambirambi zangu kwa wazazi ambao wamepoteza watoto wao katika hii hafla ya maandamano yaliyokuwepo. Ni jambo la kuhuzunisha na tuwatakie kwamba may their souls rest in peace. Niseme ya kwamba ni wakati sisi kama wazazi na viongozi tuone ya kwamba watoto ambao tunao sasa hivi, kwanza mimi nawapa kongole, kwa sababu nikiangalia katika education system inamaanisha ya kwamba masomo ambao tumepatia watoto wetu kweli, fedha ya shule, school fees haikupotea kamwe. Tumeona vile wana articulate issues, tunaona vile wanafanya mazungumzo na pia vile wanaweza kuelewa mambo. Ni jambo na ishara ya kwamba product ambazo tuko nazo hapa nje ni watu ambao wanajielewa. Niseme ya kwamba mambo ambayo yaliyotokea ni mambo kuangalia kwangu sio mambo tumeamka tukayapata. Ni kidonda ambacho kimekuwa kwa muda na kimeletwa pia na wanasiasa ambao wamekera wananchi kwa mwenendo moja ama mwingine, mahali ambapo tumeona watu wanabeba fedha kwa magunia, wanabeba pesa adharani vile, na bado tuko na mambo ambayo tunasema tunafaa kutimiza, kwa mfano kama issue ya the debt ambayo ndio imekuwa very critical issue. So ukapata hizi ni issues ambazo zimepile. Pia ukiangalia on the other sector unapata ya kwamba mahali mambo ilifikia, sababu mimi nilikuwa bunge pale last week ile, na kabisa niliona vile Gen Z hawakuweza kugive up. Niliona mpaka wakikaribia kabisa, wakikuwa katika ile fence ya bunge pale, na wakikiwa wamekita mizizi ya kwamba lazima waingie. Na nadhania ni kwa sababu labda katika hiyo harakati, sababu ile voting pale National Assembly ilikuwa inaendelea. But unfortunately by the time bunge iliweza kumaliza kikao, then after a few minutes sasa ndio waliweza kupata nafasi ya kuingia. Kulikuwa na uharibifu mwingi sana. Swali ni was it necessary? Lazima tungelifikia pale ndio mambo ikue vile sasa vile ilikuwa. All in all imefanyika, na niseme ya kwanza nashukuru president sana, kwa sababu yeye kama kiongozi, kwa sababu ni yeye sasa alikuwa na ile part ya mwisho ya kuplay ambayo ilikuwa kuassent ile bill. Then it was from a bill, then it becomes an act. Ingekuwa sasa sheria vile tunazungumzia. Lakini kwa wisdom yake na kwa wasia wake, yeye kama kiongozi wa nchi retreat back, na kweli akasema nimesikia kilio chenyu na nimewachana, na akasema irudi pale National Assembly ikuwe withdrawn with deleting all the clauses, kwa sababu niliona pia siasa zinataka kuingia kwamba sheria inasema within 14 days kama it's not signed then automatically it becomes an act, but ali withdraw by saying delete. One, niseme ya kwamba it is a very unique state because hatujafikia mahali ambapo president ana withdraw bill kufikia na vile imefikia. Kuna ile process, lakini najua the experts pia wale pale katika bunge na kila kitu, of course hiyo hatutarajii ati kutakuwa na mambo mengine vile imejaribu kukaa. But to the point of Gen Z's wanataka nini?
Shikilia hapo Senator, tutakuja. Shikilia hapo. Na mtazamaji, kumbuka rais alitoa mfano mzuri, kwa sababu tumeamkia siku ambayo gavana wa kaunti ya Makueni Mutula Kilonzo Junior pia naye ameupiga chini ule mswada wa kifedha wa kaunti ya Makueni. Mtazamaji, nirudi kwake ndugu yangu mheshimiwa David Alulu. David Alulu, nafikiri wenzako wametoa tathmini fupi ya jinsi mambo yalivyokuwa, na wewe tathmini yako ni ipi kabla kuingia ndani ya mjadala wetu asubuhi ya leo?
Nadhani nashukuru sana, mahali ambapo tungesema a very interesting point at a time kama taifa, kwa sababu walivyosema watangulizi wenzangu ni kuwa tumefika kiwango ambacho wananchi wamechoka, wakaamua kujituma. Kiwango kikubwa kama alivyosema Senator, utaona jinsi ambavyo rasilimali zimekuwa zikitumika. Whether or not unaunga mkono serikali, utaona kuna jambo ambalo litajia kufanyika. Labda kila ambacho tulikuwa hatujaweza kujua kitafanyikaje ndio kila ambacho wananchi vijana walijitokeza wakasema tumekuja. Mimi labda nasema mtazamo wangu ni kuwa approach ambayo ilitumika ama jinsi ambayo msukumo uliweza kwenda, labda ulikuja kiwango ambacho ni cha kutikisa nchi, kwa sababu mimi ninaangalia vitu kadhaa kama vitatu hivi. Jambo la kwanza, tumekuwa na shida kubwa ya ufisadi kwa serikali yetu ya Kenya. Tumekuwa na tatizo ambalo viongozi fulani wamejichukulia kama ni miungu kidogo wa kuabudiwa kwenye serikali. Kwa hivyo wanapofanya mambo, wanapozungumza, posture yao wanapojitokeza, wanakaa kana kwamba ni miungu midogo waabudiwe. Tumekuwa na tatizo ambao viongozi wa kitaifa, hata wabunge ambao wako bungeni wamekuwa na mienendo ama tabia za kuweza kujilimbikizia vitu ambavyo ni kwa faidi wao. Kwa mfano, bunge juzi wamefunguliwa jumbe inaitwa bunge tower, ambapo wako na sehemu wa kufanyia mikutano zao, wako na vifaa vya kutosha vya kutumika, lakini wabunge wetu bado wanataka kwenda Mombasa kufanyia mikutano ambazo zinaweza fanywa pale bunge, walipwe per diem, wa serikali spend pesa kwa accommodation na vitu vingine ambavyo vinaweza fanywa kule. Kwa hivyo mimi ninaunga mkono asilimia vijana wanaposema imefika wakati sasa pesa za umma na rasilimali zetu za Kenya zikuwa accounted for. Kwa hivyo approach ambayo nafikiria hii inaitwa generali ama Gen Z venye imeenda, nadhani ni kuzungumza kwa lugha ambayo inaeleweka sasa hivi, kwa sababu unajua wale wa upinzani watasema serikali imewezwa, lakini mimi sioni kama ni serikali. Nadhani the political class ya Kenya imefikiwa sasa, wao upinzani, kwa sababu mimi nimezungumza mara mingi, na siku moja nilikuwa na ndugu yangu Baronga hapa nikamwambia mimi ningependa siku moja viongozi wa bunge wa upinzani wasimame waseme sisi hatutachukua grant ya gari, hatutachukua mafuta mileage, hatutachukua pesa ambazo tunapewa za mikopo za nyumba, tukienda mikutano hatutaenda na per diem. Sisi tutataka kutumia mshahara wetu ule ambao tumepewa, kuonesha wananchi wa Kenya kwamba sisi kama wapinzani tuna hasira sana the way the money, rasilimali za wananchi zinatumika. Lakini kwa sababu huku nje wao wakijitokeza wanajipaka mafuta, sisi ni wazuri, serikali imefanya, lakini wakiwa kule ndani lugha ni moja, wanakula the same amount. Wakienda hizo sitting committee, wao unalipa mbunge mshahara, tena anaenda pale kwa sitting committee ile yake ana sign allowance, wote wa serikali na wa upinzani wana sign. Kwa hivyo nadhani ni wakati mwafaka tuwe na mazungumzo ya kitaifa ambayo yatatusaidia kukomboa nchi yetu, kuinasua kwa mikono ya wanasiasa walafi hawasikizi. Na moving forward nadhani lugha ni ile sasa ambayo lazima tukue na approach ambayo tukue na heshima. Mimi nadhani tunahitaji kuwa na heshima upande zote, wanaoandamana na wale ambao wako kwenye nafasi za uongozi, kuwe na heshima upande zote, kwa sababu tusipokuwa na heshima kila mmoja ataanza kuona kana kwamba mimi naonewa, mimi sisikizwi, alafu tutaharibu nchi yetu.
Shikilia hapo ndugu yangu David Alulu. Sasa tuingie kwenye nukta ambapo mheshimiwa senator ameileta hapa kuhusiana na vijana, na nitaanza na mheshimiwa mbunge ambao pia ni kijana. Vijana walikuwa wanasema kwamba reject it, do not amend it, kwamba ule mswada wa mwaka 2024 utupiliwe mbali wala usifanywe marekebisho. Rais akasikia akasema delete everything. Mbona bado vijana wanaandamana mheshimiwa?
Kwa sababu swala kabisa la muhimu kwa our Gen Z lilikuwa si swala la mswada wa Finance Bill 2024 pekee.
Lakini they were very clear.
Yes. Unajua ilikuwa mwanzo ni kuhakikisha kwamba hiyo finance bill imeanguka. Beyond that, it is not the only, sio jambo pekee ambalo lina kera society yetu ya Kenya. Kenya iko na ufisadi, Kenya iko na wastage of rasilimali za wananchi. Kenya iko na sisi kama wanasiasa tume disappoint nchi. Imefikia sasa hawa vijana wameamua kukomboa nchi. Na ni jambo nzuri sana.
Na leo mnaongea vizuri.
Kuna sisi mimi last year mimi mwaka uliopita mswada wa Finance Bill 2023 nilikataa. Kwa sababu ulikuwa na mambo mengi including housing levy ambayo kufikia leo bado iko na utata mkubwa sana. Nilisema no last year na mwaka huu tumesema no. Kwa hivyo katika bunge kuna wabunge ambao wako na interest ya wananchi. Sisi ambao tulisema kwamba serikali iwache kudhalalisha wananchi, I think tuko na interest ya nchi katika nyoyo zetu. Na most of hawa ambao walisema no, walisema bunge hili halina maana, kwa sababu bunge limetekwa na the executive. Unaingia pale bunge kama sasa the last day ambao tulikuwa bunge, kulikuwa na lile swala la kuidhinisha deployment ya the military. Swala hilo hata halikuwa kwenye order paper ya kuzungumziwa that day. Walikuwa ni motion ambayo ilikuja
So
ikaletwa from nowhere. Sisi wabunge wa opposition tukajaribu kumuhimiza bwana speaker kuzingatia zile standing order ambazo zilikuweko katika bunge, lakini hatukusikiwa. Kumbuka pia kulikuwa na live feed ambayo ilikuwa imekuwa turned off. Tulijaribu kupigana kabisa kwa kwamba swala la kudeploy the army si swala ambalo unataka kulizingatia kwa namna ambayo ni ya reja ya kawaida. Lakini speaker wa National Assembly ya Kenya ni speaker ambaye anaonekana ambaye si impartial, ni mtu ambaye yuko very partisan kuhakikisha kwamba miswada yote ya serikali ambayo inakuja inapitishwa bila pingamizi yoyote. So wakati unaona bunge inakuwa dysfunctional namna hii, lazima iwe imekera sana wananchi, na vile tulikuwa tunaelekea imekuwa angalia wabunge wa yes walipopiga yes wakati alafu rais akasema no, walikuwa nyuma ya rais wanapiga makofi, walikuwa wanapiga, yani inaonekana kwamba they cannot think for themselves, they only think kulingana na vile ambavyo master wao ambaye ni rais wa Kenya anavyo wajuza. So mimi nashukuru sana hii movement ya Gen Z, na nawahimiza waendelee kushinikiza serikali walazimishe rais William Ruto kuhakikisha kwamba amefanya mabadiliko katika mawaziri wake, hakikishe kwamba the democratic space ambayo constitution ya 2010 imewapatia ya kuhakikisha kwamba unaruhusu maandamano bila ya watu kupigwa marisasi, kwamba that space ikuwe safeguarded kabisa, because Wakenya walipoteza maisha, Wakenya walimwaga damu kuhakikisha kwamba hii katiba iko, na yale ambayo tuliona yakifanywa Gen Z ni mambo ambayo katika Kenya ya leo hayafai kufanyika.
Shikilia hapo tupate kauli yake Senator Bi Tabitha Mutinda. Mheshimiwa Senator, kama tulivyozungumza, vijana kwanza walisema wanataka ule mswada hawautaki, na baada ya deliberation nyingi rais akakutana na wabunge wake pale Ikulu na akajitokeza akasema kwamba mswada ule umefutuliwa mbali. Lakini mbona mheshimiwa bado vijana wanazidi kuandamana, hawataki kusikia? Tatizo nini?
Tatizo nitakwambia tatizo ni nini.
Naam.
Lakini kabla nikwambie tatizo ni nini, Rashid,
naam,
nataka kukubaliana na mwenzangu vile amesema mambo ya shida ambayo tunayo ya maandamano sai sio shida ya Azimio wala shida mambo na Kenya Kwanza. Ni shida ya Wakenya sisi wote. Hili jambo lazima tuliangalie sisi wote kama Wakenya na kama viongozi. Na amesema ya kwamba tungekuwa tunaangalia kimambo na kisiasa, na wale ambao walipiga no, then hata before wapige no wangekuwa pale nje wao wameandamana before hata mambo ifikie hapo. Hiyo ilifanyika? Haikufanyika. Tuko na ile kamati, wangefanya minority report. Ilifanyika? Haikufanyika. Kwa hivyo issue ya ule alivote no ama yule issue alivote yes aside, rais katika uongozi wake alifanya heshima. Alikuwa amefanya PG, akaita wabunge, hata sisi tukaweza kukaa tukazungumza. Akaweza kufafanua mawili matatu ya mwelekeo wa kuenda mbele na mambo ya ile finance bill. Lakini alipokuja aka withdraw na akasema hata sign, alifanya vyema, akawaita bado na akawaeleza sitaweza kufanya hivyo. Na hivyo ndio kiongozi anafaa kufanya, kwa sababu wakati ulikuwa unatembea ulitembea nao. Kwa hivyo wakati sasa umesema hautatembea pande hii, pia akawaita akatembea nao. Haina makosa, amewaeleza. Kwa hivyo jambo ambalo tunalo leo sio mambo na pande hii, wala ni sisi na ni jukumu letu sisi wote vile mambo ilivyo. Wakati mali ya mwananchi imeenda pale nje imeharibiwa, haijaandikwa ni wa upande huu ama upande huu, ni Mkenya na ni Mkenya mwenzetu. Na nieleze niseme Gen Z, mulianza safari vizuri. Wekeni your standard, your bar ikuwe that high, whereby musiache mkuwe infiltrated na watu ambao wanania ya kuharibu jina yenyu, kwa sababu mlikuja mkajitokeza vizuri, very smart. Hata unaweza identify ni uone kweli huyu ni Gen Z, vile amevaa, vile anazungumza na vile ana articulate issues zake. We are very proud of our own kids hapa. Kwa hivyo wasikanganyane, wasikue move. Now the $1 million question ya kwa meza ni gani? Kwa sababu finance bill imeisha. what is the problem. Ile shida ambayo iliyoko ni actions that need to be taken. Na mimi action yangu ile nitasema ni mbili, Rashid, leo asubuhi. Jambo la kwanza, rais arishuffle nini cabinet. Mimi niko upande wa serikali na nakubaliana na reshuffle. Na rais alisema vizuri sana, it's okay, give me time. Ni mwanadamu hawezi amka kesho aseme wewe toka hapa. But within this timing, this one ataweza kufanya nini? Ataweza kuweka mipangilio, because these ministries pia ndio zitaweza ku open up the other avenues for giving job opportunities kwa watoto wetu Gen Z. Jambo la pili, wabunge wote warudi pale, na ningetaka mbunge mwenzangu hapa kama atakubaliana na hii leo, muulize hiyo swali. Wa scrap kitu inaitwa CDF. Watoe CDF kabisa. Iachane nayo, itoke kabisa. Waingie, wacha nimalize Rashid. Waingie pale na waingie na hiyo particular agenda. Hakuna cha mambo na no, wala watu walipiga yes ama uko Azimio uko Kenya Kwanza. Waingie wote, there are 349. Waingie pale wakitoka recess, wakiwa wanashirikiana kitu kimoja, waonyeshe ishara ya uongozi na kuondoa CDF. Hiyo ikiondolewa, hizi shida zote ambazo unaona zitaisha. Zitaisha. Hiyo pesa ikuwe diverted, imalize na ikilie ile deni. Development zifanywe at the national level. County government pia zifanye mambo yao. Na hii maneno yote itaisha, Rashid. So that is the action, that is why bado Gen Z wako pale for those actions. So wabunge, hata wewe ukiwa mbunge wa upinzani, simama sema toa CDF. Wewe ukiwa upande wa serikali, simama sema toa CDF. Na yeye rais pande yake, na yeye afanye nini? Afanye reshuffle. Na amesema apatiwe sometime afanye reshuffle. Tukifanya hiyo, we are okay. We are done.
Shikilia hapo kidogo tu Mheshimiwa Barongo, nitarudi kwako. Na Mheshimiwa Senator Pole, nikianusha kidole sikutaka kukatiza, ilikuwa tunaarifiwa niende upande wa pili wa studio nipate matangazo ya biashara. Mtazamaji, tunachukua pumziko fupi, upande wa pili tupate tangazo la biashara. Tutakaporudi tutasonga mbele. Naona wanyama washapanda hapa ndani ya studio. Mheshimiwa Barongo anainua mkono. Tutakaporudi mkono wako tutasikiliza vile vile pia. Mtazamaji, pumziko fupi, tunarudi.
Kikohozi cha muda wowote, kutokwa na jasho kwa wingi usiku, uchungu kwenye kifua, afya kudhoofika, tafuta matibabu. Labda ni TB ni ugonjwa wa kweli. Ukipimwa matibabu yapo utapona. Daktari kushauri tumia dawa kwa nidhamu. Elimu tupashane, tupige vita TB. Mwa TB, TB waishi poa.
Basi hapo mzee. Mbura, unajua ni mtoto mdogo sana kunizuia mimi siseme?
Na kuzuia ndio.
Usijifanye hujui ninachoongea.
Sijifanyi, sijui unachosema.
Tafuta mke wa kuoa kabla ya jaribio. Na hilo jambo ndilo linaloleta mimi hapa.
Tena ukome kunisingizia masuala ya watoto.
Kuna kwa juu siku hizi kama mkubwa ndizi Juu usijitie hapa juu mkubwa bingwa siku hizi We koma hapa kwetu panalitosha, umenisikia?
Asante sana mtazamaji. Mheshimiwa Tabitha Mutinda Dora Manya anasema sumwekee muziki ya Gen Z. Namwambia hii ni Radio Taifa bana. Mtazamaji, karibu tena kwenye kipindi Good Morning Kenya na Zinga. Kumbuka ni kipindi cha kipekee ambacho hukujia kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 2 hadi saa 3 asubuhi kwa ushirikiano wa runinga ya KBC Channel 1 na Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya. Na leo hii studioni ni Bahati ya Mtende. Juzi ulikuwa anasema ati waheshimiwa wameepa vyombo vya habari. Uongo, si hao hapa wamekuja. Kwa hiyo msiwaekelewa waheshimiwa. Sawa sawa. Katikati ni naye Bi Senator Tabitha Mutinda, seneta maalum wa chama cha UDA. Karibu yangu hapa ninaye chipukizi Engineer Nolfason Barongo, mbunge wa Boma Choge Borabu wa chama cha ODM, na ninaye kule mbali mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa na kiuchumi bwana David Alulu. Kabla kurudi kwake Mheshimiwa Barongo, amesema kidogo nataka kupambana na Mheshimiwa Senator kivyao kisiasa. Labda kitathmini yako, mbona bado vijana wa Gen Z, rais amewaita njoni tuzungumze, wamesema sisi hatuna viongozi, hatutaki. Mwisho wamemwalika rais aje kwa space. Rais akasema niko tayari kuja kuzungumza nanyi aidha Alhamisi ama Ijumaa, lakini leo hii tunavyozungumza ni kwamba vijana hawa wako barabarani.
Nashukuru. Wakati mwingine utaniweka katikati ya hao waheshimiwa ndio joto likipanda natuliza. Lakini niseme hivi. Uliuliza swali nzuri kwamba ni kwa nini hata baada ya rais kukataa kuweka kidole kwenye ule mswada bado Gen Z hawajatoka kwenye maandamano. Na jambo la kwanza ambalo najidhihirisha hapa ni kwamba kama alivyosema Mheshimiwa Barongo, ni kwamba zaidi ya mswada wa finance bill ni kama kuna mambo mengi ambao yalikuwa yanawaumiza wa Kenya. Na mimi nataka kuzungumzia wa Kenya kwa ujumla kwa sababu hawa vijana wamejitokeza tu kama sauti ya kila mtu mwingine ambaye hana uwezo. Nimeona vijana wakisema makosa yaliyofanywa na wazazi wetu nataka kuyarekebisha. Mwanzo siku za kwanza za maandamano nilipoona wasanii wa kina Mukami na wengine wakiwa wamejitokeza, ilikuwa ni maandamano ya discipline ambapo walikuwa wameleta agenda fulani. Lakini baadaye wakati muda umeenda ukisonga, tumeona uharibifu ukiingia, maafa yakijitokeza na kila kitu ikafanyika, ambapo inaonesha kana kwamba kulikuwa sasa na vitu vingi zaidi ambavyo vilikuwa vimejificha pale kwenye mswada wa finance bill. Na kwa hekima ya rais kama alivyofikiria, na mheshimiwa amesema wao walipiga no na wakafurahi kwa sababu walikuwa wamesimama upande wa watu na wengine wakapiga yes. Lakini maoni yangu ni kwamba wajua, kama kiongozi yoyote yule na kama jinsi ambavyo tulienda kwa kusimama kura 2022, kuna watu ambao walikuwa wanampigia Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga kura. Kuna watu walikuwa wanampigia Mheshimiwa William Ruto kura. Kuna watu walikuwa wanapigia Wajakoya na mwingine. Ni haki ya kila Mkenya, awe mbunge ama raia wa kawaida, kupiga upande wa wote ambao angependa kupiga kura. Na haina usaliti wa aina yoyote. Ni kwa sababu wakati huu kuna watu ambao wamesema hatutaki huu mswada. Lakini serikali ilikuwa na nia ya kutaka huu mswada kwa sababu kila serikali yote duniani lazima iwe na mswada wake wa kuonesha kama jinsi ambavyo itaweza kuokota ushuru na kuweza kutumia ule ushuru. Jambo moja ambalo vijana wa Gen Z walisema, mmoja nilisikia akisema, tungependa kabla mje kuokota ama kuleta finance bill, mtuletee report kama jinsi ambavyo mlispend ile the previous finance act venye imefanya, mtuambie tuliokota trilioni 10 na kwa hizo trilioni 10 tumefanya hivi na hivi na vile. So nadhani wakati ambapo vijana wanasema mje mtueleze mnatakaje, mmoja wapo wa vitu ambavyo vijana wanatarajia serikali ijitokeze kutoa mikakati ni kusema tumesikia sauti yenu. Moving forward, tutapanga kabla ya kuwaletea finance bill nyingine, tutakuja tuwaletee ripoti tuambie tulitaka ama tulifanya hivi na hivi na pesa zenu, lakini kufikia sasa tunataka kuongezea hiki, kwa hivyo tunaenda kuongeza kiwango hiki. Mara nyingi kwenye hii kipindi nimekuambia Bwana Rashid, shida kubwa ambayo taifa letu la Kenya inayo kubwa sana, we lack what we call civic education. Civic education kutoka kwa ofisi ya rais, kwa serikali na hata bunge hawasaidii sana, kwa sababu wakati ambapo mswada wa finance bill ulianzisha kulikuwa na nafasi ya kuwa na public participation, lakini wabunge wetu walienda hadi wapi kuweza kuelimisha wananchi wao waliowapigia kuambia finance bill maana yake ni hii na hii na hii. Tatizo ambalo tulipata, wale wenye wako upinzani walienda kutafuta vigezo ambavyo vitafanya finance bill ionekane kuwa ni mbaya. Kwa hivyo kila mtu anazungumza. Niliona mtu mmoja akisema tunaenda kutozwa ushuru kwa wagonjwa wa kansa. Wengine akasema naenda kutozwa ushuru sijui kwa kitu inakaa namna gani. Lakini shida ni nini? Ni kwa sababu lack of clear information. Kwa hivyo tatizo ambalo tuko nalo tunataka kushughulikia, na mimi nikiwa nazungumza sasa sio kama mwanasiasa ama Gen Z, lakini kama Mkenya wa kawaida, ni kwamba imefika wakati na hasa kwa ofisi ya rais kuchukuliwa hatua ya kuhakikisha kwamba kunatolewa civic education, wananchi wapate ufahamu wa kila jambo ambalo linaendelea, ili baadaye tusijipate mahali kama hapa moving forward.
Asante. Na mheshimiwa engineer, kwanza nataka kurespond kwa mheshimiwa.
Asante sana. Kwanza ningependa kumjibu Alulu. Swala la civic education hilo limepitwa na wakati. Wakati huu Gen Z wanatufunza sisi viongozi yale ambayo yako katika miswada yote ambayo tunapitisha. Mimi kwa mfano nimefunzwa sana na Gen Z masuala yote ya finance bill 2024. So civic education na serikali wala nini, Gen Z wakati huu wamechukua nafasi hiyo ya kuhakikisha kwamba wanatuelimisha sisi, hata sisi viongozi ni nini kile ambacho tunastahili kuzingatia. Ningependa pia kumjibu senator ya kwamba she needs to understand CDF ilikuja kwa sababu gani. CDF ilikuja mwanzo kwa sababu ya equity. Leo Gen Z wanapigania masuala gani? Ni hayo, equity. Gen Z hawawezi kutoka kwenye streets kwa sababu wenzao wamepigwa marisasi. Imetoka kutoka kwa finance bill, sasa ikawa sasa tafadhali tuendeni kwa streets tuwaomboleze wenzetu ambao unarmed and peaceably assembled walipigwa risasi na serikali na mambo mengine mengi ambayo yako yanaendeshwa vibaya katika nchi yetu. Ningependa kusema hivi, pamoja na finance bill 2024 kuletwa bungeni, tuliambiwa kwamba kitita cha pesa cha CDF kitaongezwa kwa kimo cha 30 million shillings kila constituency. Tulikataa. Tulisema kwa sababu ilikuwa kama ni they were dangling a carrot. Yani wabunge hawa watakubali kupitisha mswada huu iwapo tu tutawaonyesha kwamba interest ya constituencies zao iko covered. Ningependa kusema hivi Mheshimiwa Tabitha, CDF sisi kama wabunge hatuna role yoyote. Mimi si sign check yoyote kwenye CDF. CDF iko na regulations na rules zake ambazo zinaiendesha. CDF ni mpango wa serikali ambao it is the only program ambayo kwa sasa inaleta maendeleo ambayo yanaonekana. Shule zetu mashinani zimeimarika. Hawa Gen Z ambao leo wanapigania nafasi yao katika nchi wamefunzwa kutokana na bursaries ambazo zimetoka kwa CDF. Kwa hivyo swala la kutupilia mbali CDF alitakweko kwa sababu hata sio pesa nyingi, ni bilioni 52 pekee ambayo inatumika kwa njia
muache mtakubali toke. Ambayo swali tunataka tujibiwe, Gen Z wakitaka CDF iondolewe, wabunge mtakubali iondolewe?
Nitakwambia hivi, Gen Z represent the best of this country.
Correct.
Gen Z wamesema hata bunge livunjiliwe mbali. Mimi kama mbunge niko tayari kuondoka kwa bunge ili tafadhali tutafute leadership ambayo itakuwa leadership ya kuhudumia wananchi, not a self-seeking leadership. I feel very helpless kuwa katika bunge ambayo hatuwezi kuhakikisha kwamba the reflection of what Kenyans require inatekelezwa pale bungeni. Hii ni mara ya kwanza president kukubaliana na sisi wabunge wa upande wa no, kwa kusema pia kwamba hii bill na yeye amesema no na kwamba irudi bunge.
Mheshimiwa
izingatiwe upya.
We need to be very serious. Ile mambo ambayo iko mbele yetu sio ya viongozi peke yake, ni yetu sisi wote wa Kenya. And I can tell you today, kuna watu ambao hawajaenda kazini, kuna watoto ambao hawajaenda shule. hii iko leo vile imepangwa, na pia Thursday kuna ule mpangilio. Swali ambalo umetuuliza leo Rashid ni shida iko wapi na finance bill iliondolewa. Let us be truthful. For the betterment ya hii Kenya yetu. Na watoto wale wote wako pale nje ni watoto wetu, na kwa sababu either ni niece, either ni nephew, either ni nani, ni wetu sisi wote. Kwa sababu wakati shida itatokea utaingia pale kama familia usaidie njia moja ama ingine. But my point is this. Kama president ali decide not to assent to that particular bill, sioni ni nini ngumu wabunge pia wasiseme hata sisi tukubaliane mambo ya CDF tuondoe. Alulu, umemuuliza mheshimiwa Barongo leo, mkiambiwa muondoe CDF mtaondoa ama mtaondoa? Haja kujibu hiyo swali. Awacha nizungumze, ni wakati wangu. Amezunguka akisema tusikize Gen Z, tutawasikiza, tutaondoka, tutatoka bunge nini. Swali lile liliopo ni kwamba kwa sababu ni mambo na accountability, tuondoe CDF tusiondoe, anafaa kuwa mheshimiwa kama na namuona yeye ni Gen Z akiwa mstari wa mbele vile ana support Gen Z na actions, because ile wanaitisha leo ni action. Wameitisha president action ya ku restructure the cabinet, na president alisema no problem, give me mind ni soul search. At least there's a step, na tumeona vile amefanya on mambo ya finance bill. Waheshimiwa wakubaliane, na tuko na mmoja wetu hapa, mimi siko National Assembly, wakubali waseme kama hii itakuja Gen Z waitishe hii, tutakubali vile president. Wacha nimalize. It is an act, lakini pia thank you. It is an act. We are legislators. Tunaunda sheria. Wanaweza rudi, wakirudi wasema tunarudi, na tunarudi kupitisha sheria kusema tuondoe hii. That is what I'm saying. Mheshimiwa amerudi amesema ya kwamba Mheshimiwa Barongo amesema ya kwamba Gen Z walinisomea finance bill. Hatuhitaji public participation. You know, it is sad because kama jukumu letu ambalo ni representation, sisi ndio tunafaa kuwa tunawaelezea. Tunafaa hata kuwa tunasema pole, kwa sababu Gen Z hatukuwaeleza kinagaubaga vizuri tuweze kuelimisha zile plans ambazo tulikuwa nazo, ndio tuweze kuelewana. 3, hiyo issue anasema ya CDF ya 30 million per constituency additional. Hakuna mbunge, na kama yuko waniambie, alijitokeza akasema katika hii finance bill unajua tumeongezewa CDF 30 million na hiyo 30 million nitafanya. Hakuna. Hiyo kadi walificha na ilinyamaziwa to the end. Wote ambao waende walipiga no ama walipiga yes, hiyo iko inazungumziwa. Ndio mimi nasema hii CDF iondolewe. 3, Gen Z wamesema mambo mnatuambia mambo na basari na nini na vitu kama hizo. Tuko na national, tuko na HELB ambayo iko at the national level. Pia tuko na counties ambao wako na educational fund. They will execute that kwa wale watoto needy ambao wana need that particular basari. Na naunga mkono na basari kwa sababu yale nimeona na Gen Z vile wanazungumza watoto wetu vile wana articulate, mpaka hata ukiwa msanyini tukisafiri kidogo pale nje unasikia mtu ukimwambia you are a Kenyan, wanasema wow, you know Kenyans wanajulikana kwa ABCD. 1, they are very hardworking. 2, kwa masomo yetu iko hali ya juu, which is very positive. So issue, na tumerudi pale, tusisahau ile kiburi imekuwa. Kuna viongozi wamekuwa na kiburi sana, kana kwamba wakijitokeza kwa wananchi, unajitokeza wamebeba zile fedha. Hizi pesa zinatoka wapi? Kwa hivyo kwa nini wasikubali ya kwamba wasacrifice hii particular CD? Mbona inawauma? Si waondoe.
Haya, mheshimiwa, kwa dakika moja, naona dakika zetu zinakwenda mbio kweli.
Asante sana. Sababu ambayo inafanya Gen Z hawajaangazia CDF ni kwamba CDF iko na mpangilio na utaratibu wa kuiendesha.
Nimewachaniwa.
Wamekataa mswada wa finance 2024 kwa sababu kodi inakusanywa lakini maendeleo hayaonekani. Serikali haijachapisha list ama breakdown ya debts zote ambayo imechukua muda huu wote tangu iingizwe ofisini. Tafadhali sisi tungependa kuambia serikali hivi. Na William Ruto alikuwa makamu wa rais wakati wa uongozi wa Uhuru Kenyatta. Kwa hivyo yeye yuko katikati ya hii problem. Tafadhali serikali kwa ajili ya kuwajibika ichapishe jedwali list ya all borrowing ambayo imefanya outside of parliament. Ni swala ambalo limekuwa ni donda, lakini serikali imekuwa ikilipuuzilia sana. CDF iko na board, CDF iko na mpangilio, CDF inakuwa audited, CDF katika constitution ya ile committee, CDF iko na a young representative representing young males and a female representative representing young females, na pia iko na a person representing persons with disability. Ni fund ambayo imeleta maendeleo ambayo inafaa kuwa strengthened. Serikali ilikatazwa kupitisha mswada wa 2024 sababu wanakusanya kodi, lakini ukiangalia kodi imeenda kufanya nini? Serikali inahakikisha kwamba those lines are actually confidential, na kwamba Kenya leo hatujui tunalipia madeni gani. Serikali jitokeze very clearly iseme tuko na madeni fulani na tumekuwa tukialipia like this. Kila Mkenya sasa tuanze kuangazia deni ya Kenya ni pesa ngapi, last year tulilipa pesa ngapi, na hiyo deni imebaki.
Rais Juzi alisema public debt itaikuwa wazi. Mtazamaji, mambo
kidogo tu dakika moja niseme ya kwamba mimi niko katika kamati ya finance and budget katika bunge la Seneti, na all matters finance it's public. It's a public document. Kwa hivyo kama mheshimiwa hajui ya kwamba hizi information ziko katika public, kusema izikuwe published, they are already there. Just google anything that you need.
Mimi na tunaweza google, nyanya yako anaweza google, mheshimiwa mama yangu anaweza google,
lakini sasa wewe ndio utakuwa na jukumu la kumuelezea. That is the point. Swali ni iko public kama iko public, iko public. From there you retrieve, then uweze kumuelezea, uweze kumsomea na umuelezee. That is the point. Sio kusema ya kwamba hizi vitu zimefichwa. Hazijafichwa, tuambiane ukweli na to face the fact. Na umesikia wamekataa kutoa ile pesa ambayo inawafanya wanabeba hizi pesa kwa magunia, na hii ndio inakera na ndio imekera wananchi, and that is the truth.
Wanabeba pesa magunia,
wanabeba pesa magunia.
Ni kama wewe mheshimiwa.
Sisi hatuna fund.
Unaona CDF anazungumzia, hizo kamati anayezungumzia, wote ni watu wa bunge. Hakuna watu pale ambao wameweka pale procedure kwamba tunaenda kuvet, lakini wote watu wa CDF. Hata ukienda kwa mheshimiwa Barongo,
mheshimiwa amewaweka.
Mheshimiwa ni watu ambao anajua na control.
Remote namna hii.
So it is not true kusema kwamba it is independent.
No, it's not.
Wabunge wamechukua excuse ya kusema mimi asisign check, but you see if you are doing it through somebody else ambaye una control, unampigia simu unamwambia fanye hivi, huyu afanywe hivi, then you are control.
Jenzi ambieni wabunge watoe
wale wanao. That is the strategy. Shikilieni hapo. Mtazamaji, ndivyo hali halisi ilivyo hapa ndani ya studio. Waelekezi wangu, mngenionea tu huruma mkaniongezea japo dakika. Anaona hapa mambo yamezidi kuwa mazuri. Mtazamaji, endapo ndo kwa sasa unafungua runinga yako ya KBC Channel 1, kumbuka leo ni Health Tuesday. Sijui wenzangu wamepanga nini upande wa pili, lakini ndani ya studio niko naye seneta maalum wa chama cha UDM Mheshimiwa Tabitha Mutinda. Vile pia niko naye mhandisi mbunge wa Bomachoge Borabu kumradhi, engineer Nolfason Barongo, na vile pia niko naye ndugu David Alulu, mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa na vile pia masuala ya kiuchumi. Nikirudi kwako bwana David Alulu, kwa sasa vijana wa Gen Z wanajumuisha idadi kubwa sana ya Wakenya, huku wakiwa na zaidi ya milioni 18.3. Wengi wao inasemekana kwamba hawana kazi, wanategemea kazi nyingi kupitia mitandao ama online, na hata baada ya kumaliza masomo yao kwenye taasisi za kiufundi ama vyuo vikuu, na huku uchumi wa Kenya ukiwa kidogo hauko vizuri sana. Je, suluhisho la kudumu kwa changamoto hii ni ipi bwana Alulu? Wewe ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kiuchumi.
Asante, swali nzuri sana. Rais juzi alizungumza alipoulizwa na mmoja wa wale walikuwa wakimhoji na kwa ile vyombo vya habari. Alisema atachukua majukumu ya kuhakikisha kwamba anapunguza gharama ya expenditures ambayo serikali inapitia. Shida moja ambayo tumepata kwa taifa la Kenya, tuko na pesa mingi na rasilimali za kutosha za kuweza kujenga hata viwanda hapa Kenya, lakini pesa zetu zinapotelea kwa mikono na mifuko ya watu wachache. Wizi wa mali ya umma na expenditures ambazo ukifuatilia hautajua nini hasa kinaendelea, kwa sababu viongozi wetu ambao wana nafasi ya kuongoza, mtu anapopata nafasi yeye anakuwa ni kama amepata kitu cha kumfanya yeye atajirike. Viongozi wetu hawapati nafasi, wanapopata nafasi wajieleze kwamba nimepata nafasi ili nikaweze kutengeneza opportunities ya watu ambao walinipatia nafasi ya kama ni kwenda bungeni, ya kuingia bungeni. Mimi natarajia wabunge wetu, Mheshimiwa Barongo akiwa mmoja wao, kuweka miswada bungeni ambazo zitatusaidia kujenga viwanda, kuhakikisha kwamba we have sufficient sources of employment in our country. Lakini wakati ambapo viongozi wetu wanafika pale, inakuwa ni kama mashindano, nani atapata miradi mingi, nani atapata tenders kubwa, nani atafanya namna gani, then mwisho wa siku tunajikuta rasilimali zetu zimepotelea kwa mikono za watu wachache, na ndiposa unaona hasira hii ambayo ipo. Na mimi nataka kusema hapa sasa, sio kama mwanasiasa, ama ninataka kuambia viongozi hasa wabunge, msiketi mkachanganyikiwa mkacheka mkadhani Rais Ruto anapigwa na Gen Z. Hii Gen Z sio ya kupiga Ruto. Hii Gen Z sio ya kupiga Kenya Kwanza. Gen Z inatetemesha pande zote ambazo yuko kwa taifa la Kenya. Kwa hivyo viongozi wa Kenya wakae kwa viti vyao, waanza kutafakari ni nini tutafanya kukomboa taifa la Kenya. Kwa sababu viongozi wa kisiasa wakikaa upande mmoja waanze kusherehekea, waseme Rais Ruto anapigwa, alafu taifa la Kenya liporomoke, kila Mkenya atakuwa kwenye shimo. Kwa hivyo ni lazima viongozi wetu wa kisiasa wasobe hapo, waseme tunataka kukomboa taifa letu by making sure tunaleta mijadala ambazo national conversations ambazo zitatusaidia kuleta rasilimali, kuleta ajira, na kuhakikisha kwamba masomo ambaye itatusaidia na kusaidia watoto wetu wa Kenya it is cut across bila kubagua.
Rashid, niseme ya kwamba viongozi ndio wameangusha rais, especially viongozi wachache ambao wamekuwa upande wetu. Kwa ile ishara walitoa ya uongozi ndio imekuja ikakera. Tuseme ukweli.
Na alikiri mwenyewe rais
mwenyewe amekubali na akasema. Unaona? Kwa sababu yeye alikuwa na malengo na focus ambayo imekuwa sawa. Lakini wale wengine wamemzunguka wachache, na nasema wachache sababu sio wote, ndio wamekuja wakaribu maneno. Na kwa nini mimi na insist ECDF itolewe? Ikiweza kukua scrapped off itolewa, wamekuwa wakitumia kubagay na kununua kura za the next not financial year but the next elections. Wamekuwa wakikampeni nayo na wakitumia hiyo kununua kura. Ikiondolewa, wataweza kuconcentrate na ile Alulu wanasema national oversight. Wataweza oversight to the extreme ya hii particular ministry because that is their mandate. Sisi kama Senate tuna oversight the county governments, na wao ndio wako na jukumu la oversight the national government. Kwa hivyo watafocus kwa mfano kama issue ya HELB. Kwa nini HELB kumekuwa na delayed disbursement ya funds to this particular institution? Kwa nini shule moja ndio university moja ama college ndio inapewa, hao wengine hawapatiwi? Na watoto wetu, mtu atasimama aseme katika constituency yangu, mheshimiwa atasema katika constituency yangu watoto wangu hawajapata. Ataweza kupigania wapate through the right institution, na yeye ataweza kufocus, na utaona a lot of these issues tutaweza kusolve. Lakini sasa ukiwa mbunge unapata ECDF ndio chakula yao kabisa, na ndio wanaitumia kabisa within that particular area, na ndio inaleta ile mambo ya corruption yenye unaona, kwa sababu pia wanashindana kinguvu, wanashindana mimi nimefanya nini kukuliko na nini na nini. Tuna lose that particular focus ya our generation.
Asante mheshimiwa, tutatenga muda tuje tuzungumzia CDF inapoadhimisha miaka 20. I'm told to wind up kwa haraka upesi, labda mheshimiwa Nolfason Barongo, na wewe, which is the way forward?
Mimi ningependa kuhimiza serikali appreciate kwamba wananchi ndio waliowaweka katika nyadhifa zenu. Stop talking down on Kenyans. Tafadhali allow Kenyans to demonstrate peacefully. Wacha kupiga vijana marisasi. Niliona picha moja ya vijana kama 4 hivi wameshikilia flag ya Kenya, alafu hapa mbele kumepigwa kijana mmoja risasi, kijana amelala chini na wamemfunika na flag ya nchi. That photo is an iconic photo. Why would you shoot a young man whose desire ni kuhakikisha kwamba Kenya inampa nafasi ya kupata nafasi za kazi? Serikali ya Kenya Kwanza imechukulia serikali ya kwamba ni share yao, yani wao ndio walipata kura za kuingia ndani ya serikali.
Kijana wale wao si kwamba ni wa Kenya Kwanza wala ni Azimio, ni Mkenya.
Yes. Na ndo tunasema, na ndo sababu Gen Z hawastahili kutoka kwenye maandamano, kwa sababu kama serikali ambao waliweka kwa ofisi inaweza kuwaua namna ile bila sababu, then waendelee kushinikiza serikali kwamba it must stop doing that. So hii serikali imekuwa ni serikali ya kimabavu, ni serikali ya maringo. Ukiangalia viongozi wa mrengo wa Azimio, hakuna yeyote ambaye amepost magari makubwa wala we have been very responsible, kwa sababu sababu
asante mheshimiwa muda wetu.
It is the only respectable thing to do kwa mwananchi.
Mimi Maronga una gari kubwa wewe.
Wacha jibu basi.
Naweza kujibu.
Na mtazamaji, kwa hivi sasa ni saa 3 kamili. Tuzunguke upande wa pili wa studio tupate taarifa ya habari. Asante sana mheshimiwa Senator Maalum Bi Tabitha Mutinda kwa kuweza kufika hapa ndani. Nilikuwa na wasiwasi kama utafika kutokana na ujumbe ulioachia usiku kutokana na maandamano, lakini umefika. Asante sana, na asante sana vile vile pia Engineer Barongo kwa kuweza kufika. Nitawatafutia muda tena, na asante sana vile vile pia mtu mzito David Alulu. Asante sana basi.
Maji ni uhai, maji ni haki yako.
Je, unajua kwamba wizi wa maji ni uhalifu unaoathiri sisi sote? Hata hivyo, wateja wengi wa maji husalia kimya bila kufahamu madhara yake.
Work with what you have and improve on it. Use what you have.
Wasreb, tunaadhimisha miaka 20 ya udhibiti wa huduma za maji.
Mwalimu, angisi mother shares birthday day with Fala's girlfriend.
Really? What a weird coincidence.
You and I both can agree that all this is not for Sisha.
Saitan. See, I thought we said we are not going to speak about that yet again. Why are you spoiling my mood, Yawa?
Please, you say, what is wrong, eh?
Please, what? You think I'm one of those women you are calling?
Mwalimu, can you imagine Sisha wants to kill Ngalo?
Maybe it is you.
Me? Why? What did I do to you?
Welcome back and thank you for staying tuned to Good Morning Kenya. This is now a different segment and it is Women at the Forefront. And I am joined by a lovely lady by the name Jacinta Mutonga, who is a love, feminine energy and relationship expert. And today we'll be looking at the topic of getting out of toxic cycles. Jacinta, good morning.
Good morning.
You're feeling
Vivian?
well?
I'm feeling good. How are you?
I'm doing well as well.
And thank you for having me.
You're welcome. If we can just begin by looking at toxic cycles. When we talk about toxic cycles, what are we talking about?
So with toxic cycles, we're talking mostly relational cycles that are dysfunctional, toxic, not fulfilling. So for the last 4 years or so, I have been coaching women in the area of self-love, that is loving themselves, and then learning how to co-create healthy, fulfilling relationships, whether those relationships are intimate or family relationships and even friendships and career relationships. Yes.
And how does one recognize a toxic cycle?
So you know your own dysfunctional cycles by the way your relationships are. So if you are constantly in relationships that are chaotic, abusive, dysfunctional, dramatic, that tells you that there is something that you need to look at within yourself. And I think that we tend to look at relationships from the perspective of what the other person is doing, how the other person is making us feel, how they are showing up. But relationships are actually a co-creation. There's always two people in the relationship. And whether we are aware or not, there is a way we are enabling that experience consciously or unconsciously. Yes. Yes.
So speaking about that, how does one identify their own toxic traits? You know, because as you've said, most of the times we always blame the other party. You know, they did this, they did that. So how does one, first of all, try and identify their own place in the toxic cycle?
Yes, and that's where the work of people like myself come in, because most of the time we are not aware that the way we are experiencing the relationship, the way we are experiencing ourselves, the way we are experiencing the exchange of the energetic exchange between the two people is a co-creation, right? And a lot of times, for me who has been doing this work for a good 4 years, and I've worked with hundreds of women, most of the people, the ladies that come to me, they are experiencing some kind of a hardship or resistance or disharmony within the relationship, and they come to me, Jacinta, my partner or my sister or my mother is doing XXY. And a lot of time it's very externally focused. And it's my job now to bring you back inward and let's look at ourselves. What is it about me that is allowing this to happen, whether I'm conscious of it or not? How am I enabling that? How am I contributing to the energetic experience? And for people like me who are coaches, that is the job, is to bring awareness to our own behavioral patterns that are contributing to how we are experiencing the relationship. So if I'll give you a specific example. So if you're struggling, let's say with self-esteem issues or worthiness or lack of boundaries, you are going to know that by the way your relationships are unfolding. If you are highly, I don't want to use too technical or psychological terms like codependent, that just means that you're so disconnected from yourself, but you're so externally focused on what everybody else needs from you, and you are abandoning your own needs, right? So what tends to happen is you're going to end up with a relationship with people who, in your own opinion, they are using you, or they are not respecting you, or they are not giving you what you need. But when you are in that state of codependency, you actually are very disconnected from your own needs. And you just sort of expect your partner or the other person in the dynamic is automatically supposed to know what your needs are. But nobody can really read your mind and understand your needs unless you communicate them. Now, there is a childhood component to all I'm saying, because a lot of us were not given the avenue or the ability to self-express and self-advocate and speak up for our own needs. It's not something most of us were taught. So we were to be seen, not heard. When that has been how you were raised, it becomes very, very difficult in your adulthood to just automatically know, oh, I'm supposed to just express what my needs are, how I want to be treated, what my standards are. And so when you're disconnected from your own self, your own needs, your own worthiness, then it's going to be very hard for you to express that outwardly in your adult relationships. And how that will manifest is you're going to find yourself that you're giving, and not necessarily being reciprocated. And that will breed this, not only resentment, but you'll be talking about people use me. People always only want to, these one-way relationships where I'm giving, but getting absolutely nothing. So for the work I do, it is to understand, first of all, can we nurture that healthy relationship with yourself? Can you be in congruence with your own needs? Can you be in congruence with your own sense of worthiness? Can you be in congruence with your own boundaries? Because nobody can read your boundaries, and a boundary is not really a boundary if you haven't expressed it or communicated it. Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
Now, before we get to look at how to break, that cycle or that pattern of being in toxic relationships and so on, how do you work on not getting into it in the first place? Is there a way that you can consciously work on not getting into a toxic environment or relationship? Can you spot red flags?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, so when with relationships especially, we go into relationship based on what was modeled to us, right? How we have observed relationships being handled in our childhood, how conflict was handled, how we were taught or not taught how to be in healthy or even know what healthy relationships look like. So a lot of it has to do with our upbringing and what was modeled to us.
Right.
Now, when we are not conscious of that, and let me just back up and say that for us, women especially, we were taught in childhood, and I think I speak for many when I say this, that boys are bad, men are bad, men make you pregnant, stay away from them, right? So that means you're not supposed to look at any men, you're not supposed to talk to any boys because they're not good for you, right? And so we never learn how to really have healthy dynamics of how to relate with men in healthy ways, right? So then we fast forward to, we've now become, like a young woman like yourself, you're now a professional, you're done with your education, and everybody is, where's the husband? When are you getting married, right? But between all of that, nobody ever sits us down and tells us, how do you become healthy for yourself first and foremost, so that you can enter into a relationship from a healthy space.
That's true.
How do you identify what healthy patterns and healthy behaviors in the persons that you're dating? How do you identify or vet healthy green flags? What do red flags look like? So I think there's a collective consciousness where we think that relationships are just about falling in love, and love will conquer it all. But that is actually not true. You can be in love, and two people can love each other, yet not be healthy for each other, yet not be healthy independently, right? Yet have a lot of childhood traumas they haven't healed. And all of that is going to come to fruition inside a relationship. There is nothing that triggers our unhealed parts more than intimate relationships, especially, just because of the emotional output that is involved in them. So if I come from a childhood that was very chaotic, very dysfunctional, abusive, and otherwise not where my emotional needs were not met, I am going to unconsciously bleed all of that onto my partner. And my partner is also coming with his own traumas, unmet needs, unfulfilled needs. And we look to each other to provide that, but if we are not equipped, it is just going to be a chaotic environment inside that home. Yes.
So how do you maintain healthy, relationships?
I think maintaining healthy relationships requires two healthy partners. And this is where now the work of coaches and therapists and mental health professionals comes in. And I'm so happy to see that as a society now we are embracing therapy, we are embracing coaching, we are embracing mental health care, because all that is it helps us become healthy people, for ourselves first and foremost, and that's where now the nurturing of the healthy relationship with yourself, and you're healing your childhood traumas, and healing whatever, being able to meet your own needs. That's where that comes in. And now if you have a partner who is also conscious and intentional about their own growth, more than likely you're being set up for success in a relationship. Otherwise, if we are not intentional about that, and we just think that falling in love with someone in and of itself, love as a feeling is enough, that is actually not even sufficient. And love is actually a verb, it's an action word. It's consistent actions, more than just a feeling, I love so-and-so, or so-and-so loves me. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe what role does setting healthy boundaries play in avoiding or being able to break that toxic cycle?
So boundaries are a huge, huge part of healthy relationships. First of all, we got to understand what boundaries are, right?
Yeah.
Boundaries are the parameters that we set around ourselves about how we want to be treated, how we want to feel in a relationship, right? The standards we set for ourselves. But boundaries are not just about me. The other person also has boundaries, right?
Yeah.
That I need to also respect and honor, because if we don't have those parameters for ourselves and respect the parameters for the other person, and then for the union of the relationship itself, set boundaries around that container of a relationship, you're not going to have healthy relationships. So within the container of the relationship, if it's me and my husband, then we have myself. I gotta be healthy for me, right? First and foremost, and then for to show up healthy in the relationship. He has to do the same for himself. Those are two. There's always three people in a relationship. There's him, there's her, and then there is the relationship itself, right? So if I work on myself to be healthy, set those boundaries, love who I am first and foremost before anybody else can love me, and then he has the same, and then we come in that union of the relationship. We also have to respect that relationship. A lot of times, and especially in from the context of our Kenyan family or African family, there is so many stakeholders that are usually involved in our relationships, our marriages. There's our family of origin, our in-law families, and if the two people that are in the relationship are not protective of the relationship and respectful of the relationships, then you have too many people in the relationship, too many voices, and that is never really a way to cultivate a healthy, long-lasting relationship. So I think boundaries are a huge, huge part of it. You got to understand what they are, how to set them. You have to deal with the fact that when you set boundaries, people get triggered at first when you start setting those parameters for the people you love and care about, and especially those who you never set standards for. So if you start telling them, no, this is my new way of being, these are my new parameters, people get entitled and they get triggered and they will project that on you. So you got to be able to deal with that. Then there are those who benefited from you not having boundaries, and they are going to feel some type of way when you start telling them, oh, the old Vivian no longer exists, then the old Vivian now, this is how she's showing up. This is what I can or cannot do. And just nurturing a healthy relationship with the word no, that it takes you a long ways to co-creating those healthy relationships with everybody in your life. Yes.
Now, just from you speaking, someone might feel like it's so easy to get out of a toxic cycle or pattern, but sometimes it's not really as easy. You know, we've heard of stories of so many people, say women and some men as well, who are in relationships that are very, very toxic, and it's not easy to break that cycle. It's not easy to come out of, you know, that toxic environment. You know, there's the Stockholm syndrome where you're so used to it, so you're in it and you don't see, you know, if it is a problem really. So what are the steps maybe to get out of a toxic cycle?
So the first step is the being aware. Because when you're in a situation that is toxic, you will know everything in your life will tell you, everything in you will tell you that this is not healthy. Because our intuitive side, our intuition tells us when we are in dangerous situations, when we are in an unhealthy relationship. So just being aware is the first step. Number two, being comfortable and courageous enough to go seek help. That is talking to a mental health professional or a relationship counselor or a coach or a therapist. That's the next step. The other part of it is understanding the inner workings of a relationship. You mentioned Stockholm syndrome, and I think we tend to, with the best of intentions, tell people who are in toxic, abusive relationships, oh, you just have to love yourself enough to walk away. Yes, there's truth to that, but the actual steps, the actual doing of living is a little bit more complex because, as you said, there is the attachments, the toxic attachment, the bond, that bond of the Stockholm syndrome that you mentioned, or the trauma bonding, and these bonds are very, very addictive, right? Because when we get into a relationship, and especially the romance part of it, the infatuation part of it, where we are falling in love, it is not just a cognitive or intellectual thing. There is brain chemicals that are being produced by the body. There is the dopamine, the oxytocin, the PEA, the bonding hormones, and they can flood our bodies. And that's where that feeling of intense love and intense chemistry comes in, right? And there is this other part of it that is the love bombing that we hear people talk about, which is where both of you are pouring so much affection and intensity and a lot of attention into the relationship. And that can really bypass the organic process of getting to know one another. And so you're falling in love. It feels like love. It's really infatuation so fast, and all those body reactions, chemical reactions are taking place. And so even when you see the so-called red flags, the things that your intuition is telling you there's danger here, the chemical reaction within your body is keeping you so bonded and almost addicted to the person, and in that phase it's really easy for you to ignore the red flags that you're already seeing. And then inevitably, as the relationship progresses into the next phase, where now the cocktail of the drug cocktail of brain chemicals is coming down, and now the true nature of human beings is beginning to show who they are. At that point, you're already really bonded into that attachment, and it's hard to pull yourself out of it. And when the relationship starts now showing toxic cycles, you're trying to recreate the high all the time, the high that you felt when you were in that infatuation, right? The honeymoon phase, because it's really not reality, it's an illusion, right? And when you're dealing with especially very manipulative persons, let's say persons with narcissistic tendencies, psychopathic, sociopathic tendencies, they're actually really, really good at pouring in that affection and grandiose insane amount of attention to you, and it can disorient you. So, and it feels good at the beginning. So when the abuse or the gaslighting and all these other things start happening, you're already in so deep, and now because they're doing things that are not making you feel too good about yourself, your body is also producing the stress hormone, what do you call it now? I can't even think. The stress hormone that makes you now want to chase the high that you felt. And even when other people are telling you that this is not healthy for you, you can't see it because you're in these cycles. And that's where now the Stockholm syndrome you're talking about comes in. We also can become very protective of the very person that is abusing us because you are attached, you are addicted to that person. It's called love addiction, right? So it becomes really hard because you're being pulled towards the same person. Common sense is telling you, I need to get out of this. But there's so much reaction going on inside of your body, and you're already so addicted to this person that you're actually protective of them.
Yeah, so how do you break yourself out of that?
So this is where now the work of professionals comes in.
Okay.
And this is, for me who does this work, I do a lot of that with my clients. Just not telling them you need to leave, just showing them what that looks like, what is exactly going on, what's the difference between an actual connection and an attachment. What is going on inside of you, some of your own patterns that are going on that are co-creating this. So when you are aware, this is how I'm showing up and co-creating this, then you can work on it. You cannot heal something you don't understand, right? So for those of us who are doing this work, we call it inner work, which is a deconstruction of your own behavioral patterns. And if you understand why you're in this situation and what's keeping you addicted to this situation, then I can give you the tools on how to pull away from that, right? So it's not bad-aid. It is understanding yourself on a deep level, your own dysfunctional patterns, what part of your maybe childhood dynamic you're replaying in this relationship, because sometimes we tend to choose partners that are bringing familiarity to the relationship. Most of the time it's a childhood dynamic we are trying to recreate with this other person. So once you have a deep understanding of that, now you can actually start not only extending yourself grace and compassion, because now you understand why you keep showing up for these things. You also now can learn helpful tools, which I give you, on how to start pulling away from this, so that you can nurture healthy relationship within yourself first and foremost, before you can even address the external relationship, and do it in a safe way, because some of these situations are dangerous. Yes.
You've mentioned actual connection and attachment. So what's the difference between having an actual connection with someone and being attached to somebody, you know, where it's now become addictive?
Yeah, so one of the things people have to understand, and one of the things I teach, is understanding your own attachment style. This is now the blueprint on which we bond with people. And that is something you pick up in childhood. And once you understand what your attachment style is, you will see why you bond so fast with people quickly. Like if you're anxiously attached, you latch on to people really, really fast. Within 3 weeks, you're already seeing yourself walking down the aisle with somebody you barely know, right? if you're anxiously attached. Then there are those who bond, or those of us who bond when we feel we bond quickly, or we bond with someone, we feel those feelings of attachment, and then we get scared and then we run away, right? We are avoidant, we feel love, and then we get scared, and then we run. So if you are the kind that latches on and you're attracted to the runner, the avoidant person, there's going to be one person that is running and one who is chasing. That's one dynamic of it, right? The other part of it is understanding how to pace yourself when you meet a new person. Pacing yourself. That is building an organic emotional connection. That cannot be built within 3 weeks. That is something that it takes time, but you're paced out. Nobody really teaches you. And movies, if you really think about it, if you watch Disney movies, everything is boy meets girl. They gives the girl a lot of attention. They fall in love. They live happily ever after. In real life, it doesn't work like that. As a matter of fact, if you go into relationships wanting to create an immediate, instant bond full of chemistry, we call that instant relationships, chances are you're going to sabotage yourself, because you're going to really not take the time to get to know who this other person is. Relationships are organic. It's an organic process. When we do the love bombing things, or we fall for love bombing, we are bypassing all that organic process of getting to know each other, and then we are in too deep by the time we realize, oops, we did this wrong. So to answer your question, it all comes down to understanding how to create healthy relationship, the pacing of yourself, so you get to know the other person better. So by the time love has actually blossomed between the two people, it's not something instant. Love bombing is instant. Attachments are instant. Connection takes longer to build. It's a gradual process. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So we've looked at ways to set ourselves free off of toxic cycles and patterns. So maybe for someone who's gotten out of such a cycle, but right now they're not confident enough, they lost their self-esteem, as we wind up, what are the ways to rebuild your self-confidence?
So that's a fantastic question, actually, because if you manage to get yourself out of that toxic situation, it's imperative that you take your time, and not just take your time by hiding in your basement somewhere. You take the time to heal, because relationships that are toxic, you collect a lot of trauma. They're traumatic. So you have to be intentional about healing the relational trauma, because I don't care if you hold off for 5-10 years and you know, we say time heals everything. It doesn't. Intentional actions heal, right? So it's imperative that you don't jump from one relationship to the other. It's important that you take the time to understand, how did I get here in the first place? And what did that do to me? Physiologically, mentally, emotionally, what did that do to me? There's a doctor I follow, his name is Dr. Gabor Mate, and he says, trauma is not what happens to us. It is what happens inside of us as a result of what happened to us. So toxic relationships definitely leave a lot of trauma in us. And when you don't work with a professional to release that, even if you wait 10 years, 5 years before you jump into the dating scene again, all that is going to be activated in the next relationship. It's inside of you. They say the body keeps the score, or the body remembers what the mind forgets. And there is nothing that activates that more than being in a new relationship. So it's imperative that you heal that relationship with yourself first. Be alone for some time to do your work. And understand how to get yourself emotionally, physiologically, mentally ready for the next relationship, so you're not bleeding that. And also you're attracting the right kind of partner, because we attract what we are, not what we want. All
right. As we wind up, if you can just give us your parting shots.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that in this time where we are talking about men are this, women are this, there's a lot of this back and forth talking at each other. And that really doesn't help us in relationships. It really doesn't. Having healthy relationships is not only good for us, it's good for our children, it is good for our community, it's good for society at large. So if we can take a pause, instead of talking at each other, throwing mud at each other, and figure out, first of all, on an individual level, what do I need to do to be that healthy partner? What do I need to do within myself? Number one. Number two, how can I learn how to vet the right partners for me? And then how can I extend the other person grace? Because they also come with lived experiences, right? So when we approach relationships from a place of grace and compassion and seeing each other, I think we have a higher chance of creating healthy relationships. But more importantly, we need to be intentional about breaking some of these cycles. And I think we are the generation of cycle breakers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much for gracing our show today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that was Jacinta Mutonga, and our topic of discussion was getting out of toxic cycles. And I believe that you have gotten to pick a thing or two from the conversation.